All right, guys, good afternoon. Good evening, I guess we should say. Let me get John on here. There we go. We've got John on there. Guys, we don't have any tornado warnings right now across central Indiana, but I do want to draw your attention real quick, and then we will get into some details regarding timing, regarding impacts for areas a little bit further south. But I do want to draw your attention to a tornado warning right now across northeastern parts of Indiana. This is north of Fort Wayne. It's going to include areas like Kendallville and Angola. This is a radar indicated tornado, guys. You can kind of see here where we continue to get some of these notches along this line of damaging winds. And I will show some of the wind reports here in a few minutes. We've had widespread reports of 60 to, in some spots, 80-mile-per-hour winds as these storms have moved across the northern portion of the state. I'm going to turn on the rotation tracks real quick to kind of give you an idea of what we're looking at with this. Surprised that there haven't been any tornado warnings up here. I would say right now, latest scan here, not super impressive in terms of the rotation. I'm going to go look at the other radar here, see if there's any super strong indications of rotation. I'm not seeing any, John. You can let me know if you see something different. But I'm not seeing major rotation signals right now. Certainly still take shelter, but I would be maybe surprised if they extended this warning based off what I'm seeing right now.
Yeah, Brett, at this point, it really looks like, for the most part, it looks like they just put a new tornado warning out for the northern part of LaGrange County there.
There it is.
Just including, and that's also, I believe, just including, Sturgis, Michigan as well here. Those cells have also had a history of producing 70-plus mile-per-hour wind gusts and even some large hail embedded there as well. So definitely, obviously the tornado threat is definitely a big deal embedded on the main line, but those wind gusts, this storm has a history of producing them, and it's not showing any signs of weakening as it continues to push to the northeast into southern Michigan here. And then, that storm that's approaching the Fort Wayne area, the greater Allen County area, Huntington, more towards that Ohio-Indiana border, has also, and it may not look, guys, as impressive on radar. It may not have as defined of a line there, but don't let that fool you. It's definitely still capable of producing 60 to 70 mile per hour gusts for sure.
Yep. And for those of you asking, are you out of the woods? And I've seen several different comments about that. No, if you were in Indiana, unless you're in far northwestern Indiana, you're not out of the woods. In fact, we have some very intense storm pushing west to east across parts of southern Illinois. We've got a very strong storm right now in Terre Haute. This is for hail of 1 inch in diameter and 60-mile-per-hour winds. All of these storms are lined up from Terre Haute through southern Illinois, all the way back into southern Missouri. All of these storms are going to slide to the north and to the east over the next several hours. And so if you're in the south and eastern portion of the state, you're not out of the woods. Storms are going to move in. Taking a look real quick, this is the timing that John made just a little bit ago. Right now, the west to east movement of these storms is actually pretty slow. They're struggling to come a little bit further to the east right now. They're kind of training from the southwest to the northeast. So this is a very rough idea of timing for the Indianapolis metro area. Right now, these aren't warned in terms of a severe thunderstorm warning, although I do think that risk remains on the table. For downtown Indy, we're looking at anywhere between 5:40 on the northwest side to 7 o'clock on the southeast side. So you can kind of get the idea that this is going to be a slow moving line as it pushes a little bit further down to the south and to the east. And then you're more after 7 o'clock once you get into northern Johnson County and areas further to the east. And so if you're in central Indiana, you're not out of the woods. We've got strong to severe storms that are going to be on the table as we work further into the evening hours this afternoon and this evening. And again, all of these storms out to the west from Terre Haute to Mount Vernon, Illinois, we put the radar in motion here, guys, to give you an idea. You can see slowly but surely these storms will be sweeping to the east. And I still think that there's the potential here for some pretty intense storms, especially across the southern third of the state: Bloomington, Columbus, Jasper, Vincennes, Evansville. Some of these storms out in Illinois have nearly 2-inch diameter hail. And we've seen sunshine. We have seen the instability build throughout the day today. And so I'm certainly concerned about damaging winds. I'm concerned about very large hail. And while I don't see any tornadoes on this line right now, I don't think that that threat is off the table. Although, I think the wind and hail threat, at least as things stand right now, given this is already kind of congealing into a little bit of a line, could be bigger. The bigger threat, John, you can tell me if you disagree, but some of these do show some signs of trying to rotate a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely, Brett. I think that's an excellent point. I would say, we've been watching these storms mature in southern Illinois. At first, it started off being more of a damaging wind and in some instances of hail. Now, just based on what we're seeing on radar, those darker reds and pinks on clarity really show where we're starting to see more of the large hail cores begin to develop. Now, as these cells a little bit here, I'm already seeing like 3 to 4 notches already slowly starting to develop. Again, there's not a lot of noted rotation yet, but those are the areas that we need to watch, as we've got some really good southerly winds that can just be enough to allow for that spin that can put down a couple quick brief tornadoes here. I do want to highlight here, Brett, real quick as well, that cell towards Terre Haute here is actually continuing to intensify as it pushes along I-70. So right now, for those of you in Cloverdale and Greencastle, it'll be there, at least the front edge of it, looking at right around, probably be about 545, 550. So, and that storm, I think, can be capable of producing golf ball sized hail at this point as the core continues to intensify and some gusts of 70 miles per hour. We need to keep a little bit more of an eye on some potential for rotation, but it's right now, it's more of the wind and hail threat so far. Wow, look at those. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'd be curious if any of you are in the Terre Haute area. This is right over the airport in Terre Haute. We're seeing some signals of over 1.5 inch diameter hail. So if you're in the Terre Haute area, if you are seeing hail, I would love to see some reports in the comments there. Shoot us some pictures on the Facebook Messenger or on some of our posts, because this is a very intense signal for some large hail. And all of these storms, in fact, if we go out to the west, all of these storms right now, there's another one. This is just northeast of Clay City. There's another one down here just south of Mount Vernon, all over 1 inch in diameter hail. I think that hail is going to be a pretty big threat. All of these are pushing northeast towards central and southern Indiana, and so large hail certainly going to be a threat. And as you alluded to, John, these in general are kind of showing signs of intensification. We've had the sun, and so I think that additional amplification of these storms possible as they push a little bit further to the east. Real quick, I did just see we've got another tornado warning that's been issued across northeastern parts of Indiana. I'll turn back on the radar. So this is another little notch. You can see it right here, a new tornado warning, and that's going to include Auburn, Indiana. That's going to include Waterloo. It's right across I-69 in terms of where this is going to track, between State Road 6, it looks like, and let's see, what road is this here? 43, right through Auburn, Indiana. So again, you can kind of see this notch. I'll see if we can look at any rotation on this. You can start to see here, this storm has had a history of rotation as it's moved north of Blue Lake, and so the storm has had a history of rotation. There's a notch there on the radar, and so tornado warning in effect right now. Again, just north of Fort Wayne here in Auburn, Indiana, and in Butler, Indiana. And if you're in these areas, or if you have friends and family in these areas, take shelter right away. Further to the north, as we alluded to earlier, we still have this tornado warning ongoing just north of LaGrange. And hey, look at that. Just updated live, a confirmed tornado now. This is actually southern Michigan, but Sturgis, Michigan here, we have an observed tornado. I'll click on this. Let's see here. A confirmed tornado was located near Sturgis, moving northeast at 60 miles per hour. This was confirmed by law enforcement. And this is south central Michigan right now. And so just kind of west of Batavia and Coldwater, heading towards, again, Interstate 69 in Michigan. So we do have a confirmed tornado that's just north of the Indiana border right now, but a confirmed tornado in that particular area. And then if we zoom out, you can see all of the severe thunderstorm warnings. Look at all the severe thunderstorm warnings down here in southern Missouri as well. All these 60-mile-per-hour wind. Look at this, 2.5-inch diameter hail here in south central Missouri. That's insane. These storms in the southern portion of this system are capable of some very, very large hail as they push east. And again, I think that southeast Missouri, western Kentucky, southern Illinois, southwest Indiana could be in the brunt of that very large hail as these push east. But even these, as they approach central Indiana, 60+ mile per hour winds and very large hail possible as well.
Yeah, Brett, actually, if you don't mind, if you can toggle on the visible satellite here for a second. This is one of our newer features over the past couple months we've been working on here at Clarity. Notice out ahead of this line here, along the I-69 corridor, southern Indiana, southeastern Illinois, western Kentucky, that's enough clearing to continue to allow further destabilization of the atmosphere, which is, I think, a large part, Brett, here of why we're starting to see even more intensification as this line starts to push from west to the east here.
Yeah, that's a great point. Again, looking at the satellite imagery, that's a lot of sunshine. And this is the area, if you watched our lives over the past couple of days, this area where we have the clearing from western Kentucky, southeast Missouri, southern Illinois, southern Indiana, that's exactly where we've been talking about for the biggest threat. Let's see, Hope just tagged me in the BAM Mets. So definitely seen some large hail in Terre Haute. Man, a couple of those hailstones. I'll see if I can pull that up here in a second. A couple of those hailstones are pretty big. So let me see if I can drag this in here. There we go. Look at that. So that's from Terre Haute. This is from, let's see here. Who did Hope say this is from? Nick Woodruff and Terre Haute sent this in via Facebook. And so you can certainly see a lot of little hailstones, but if you zoom in, you can see some of the larger hailstones as well. Hard to tell exactly how big this hail is without kind of a reference, whether it be a quarter or a golf ball, but certainly some decent hail out of Terre Haute being reported with this storm that's moving through right now.
Yeah, Brett, and I'm still looking at looking at this line. There's even a few cells that are developing behind the main line, just across, just a little bit to the rear here, that are still showing a few good signs on velocity that they can put down some gusts as well. So there's definitely, for some of you, unfortunately, a two-parter here. The front line obviously is our main area of concern, but any of these cells that develop just behind, keep a close eye on those. We may need to look into some additional warnings here over the next 20 to 30 minutes.
Wow. Okay, so Hope just sent me another image, I assume out of Terre Haute, that I will.
Looks like snow.
Share. It does look like snow. Look at that. That's let's see if she says this is from Heather Grimmy from Terre Haute. Man, it does. It looks like snow. That's an insane amount of hail. That's going to cause major damage, even if it's not like huge hail. That's so much hail that is going to cause major damage to cars and to roofs. Guys, if your car is outside, I'm going to go back to the radar here for a second. If you are across the southern half of Indiana, southern Illinois, and northern Kentucky, and your car is outside, if you can put it inside, I would do that because these storms mean business in terms of some of this hail. You can see, look at the pink and purple colors that are showing on the Clarity radar, guys. And by the way, if you want to see hail tracks and get an idea of where some of this large hail is going to be, scan that QR code in the top left or go to bamwx.com/get-started and get our 7-day Clarity trial. And you can use all the tools that I'm showing. Everything that I've showed so far is on the Clarity platform, and you would have access to monitor it as well for your exact location. So take advantage of that. Again, 7-day free trial, no credit card required, anything like that. bamwx.com/get-started. Hope's continuing to send me reports, so I appreciate those reports that you all are sending through Facebook. Continue to do that. That's very helpful for us, and it helps me relay information to you all as well to give you an idea of what to expect as these storms move towards your area.
Brett, I've just did some recent timing here on this cell coming out of Vigo County, and it definitely looks as if right now, and there's still some things that can change, but at least for southern Marion County, southern Hendricks County, northern Johnson, so just kind of that the southern edge, or along the edge rather, of the I-70 corridor, we're still looking at an ETA of downtown Indy for that cell around 6:30 p.m. Eastern time. I think that cell can actually impact Indianapolis if it continues its northeastward track. So it's going to be close, but it looks so far that there's definitely going to be some concerns there, and it wouldn't surprise me to see another warning be extended here to include more of Greencastle, Cloverdale, Mooresville, and Danville here in the next 10 minutes here.
So yeah, these storms right now, that storm near Terre Haute's moving northeast at about 40 miles per hour. Man, these warnings, John, are all over the place in terms of the speed. This one near Terre Haute, it says 40. This one says 25. Further down at the southeast, it says 60. So I'm not getting a whole lot of a takeaway in terms of the speed of this line based off these warnings.
I just started getting 45, 50 again towards Terre Haute. So I think that one, at least because it's a little bit more intense, robust, is speeding up a bit. But definitely.
There's a new warning. New severe thunderstorm warning here. So this is starting to get towards central Indiana, the Indianapolis metro area. It's going to include Greencastle, Danville, Cloverdale. This is for 1-inch diameter hail and 16-mile-per-hour winds. From west to east, this is going to go for the next 43 minutes. I'm going to switch over to a different tool here so I can time this out in a little bit more detail as this approaches the Indianapolis metro area real quick. So I'm going to shift my screen share, and then we should be able to kind of time out these individual cells. And so there's the new warning that includes Danville, it includes Cloverdale, Greencastle. It's just west of Plainfield. I'm going to turn on the cellular mode in terms of the storm tracking with these moving at about, what did you say, John, about 45 miles an hour or so?
Yeah, Tyler Riggles just got 45. I just got 50, so we're right there in the leading edge here.
So 45 miles per hour. I'll move this over so you all can see it a little bit better. Let's see, we'll put it right there. So let's see, Coatesville, 5:55 p.m. Clayton, Indiana, 6:05 p.m. Plainfield, 6:15 p.m. We've got Glendale at 6:29, IU Health, which is in downtown Indy, at about 6:30. So that matches exactly what you just said, John. I guess we'll keep you around. You know what you're talking about.
As long as the computer still works here, we'll be good. So.
Yeah, as long as the computer stays working. Let's see, Beech Grove at 6:35, Meridian Hills at 6:35 p.m. And I would imagine northern Johnson County would be kind of in that 6:30 to 6:45 time frame as well, as these cells move to the north and to the east. I'm seeing a new severe thunderstorm warning now as well. Let me go down, scroll down here. This is going to include Sullivan, Jasonville, and Linton. That's for 60-mile-per-hour winds and 1-inch diameter hail. And so now we've got 3 severe thunderstorm warnings moving into central Indiana. Just a real quick check further up to the north. Still have this tornado warning. It expires in 12 minutes, but that still includes Butler and Auburn, Indiana. And man, John, one of the biggest severe thunderstorm warnings I've seen in northeast Indiana right now for 70-mile-per-hour winds.
Yep, and that's still got that cell or notch rather here just to the northeast of Auburn here. Even regardless of the tornado warnings right now, I would say that's a pretty good. Yeah, look at those winds that are, even though those are just above the radar is scanning just above the surface. It would not surprise me to see these gusts of 70 to 75 at times reaching out ahead of the storm. So definitely still a dangerous line of storms that are pushing to the northeast here. And I still think that even into parts of northwestern Ohio, as you get into Defiance, Delta, Fayette area, west of Toledo in general along that I-80, I-90 corridor, you're still likely going to at least have a low-end embedded tornado risk that can be at play in addition to those damaging wind gusts.
Yeah, take a look at this. Radar indicated 80-plus mile-per-hour winds working right towards Angola right now.
Yeah,
that's crazy. Pretty consistent 70-plus mile-per-hour wind signal on radar here. moving towards Angola, Indiana, Jamestown, Indiana. Look at that. Hey, right as I say that, new tornado warning. I was just about to say there's a little notch here.
Mm-hmm.
You can see it right here. There's a little notch right in this area. New tornado warning that includes Angola, it includes Ellis, it includes York. And so if you are in this area, take shelter right away. This is a radar indicated tornado. And so if you are in this area, there is the potential for a tornado to drop down. We also have a new severe thunderstorm warning that you can see blinking there. This severe thunderstorm warning is even bigger than the last one. You don't normally get severe thunderstorm warnings this big unless you're dealing with derecho type of events, which, this isn't going to be a derecho. It's not going to probably go far enough, but I'll be the radar indications resemble what we typically see from derechos in terms of this extreme bowing segment. Look at the extreme bowing segment up here across northeast Indiana. That is a very, very strong and intense wind signal, and you're also likely going to have tornadoes embedded along this line as well.
Yeah, and another thing too to bring up here, Brett, I'm noticing on some of these warnings, they're talking about anywhere from dime to quarter-sized hail on some of them. Those wind gusts aren't just happening out ahead of the storm, guys. They can actually happen on the inner part as it's hailing. So if you have hailstones that are being thrown, that's going to increase the damage potential as well. So even if, you know, it might not seem like the hailstones are that big, you're definitely going to hear it if you're inside. So and of course, don't be outside in this at all if you can help it. Please stay inside. Move to a interior room here. Heed all these warnings and just stay safe out there.
Yeah, and real quick, I'll just make note. Here's all the reports. They haven't updated further east yet, but a whole lot of reports of 60 to 80 mile per hour wind gusts in this area. I know that Hope had said that there was a semi truck that had been blown over by some of the wind on one of the interstates up here. And so a lot of wind damage reports and a lot of power outages associated with this line already. And I would expect the same type of impacts as it pushes further to the east as well. And again, guys, this is kind of the first piece of this line. We've got the second piece still here across southwestern and central parts of Indiana, starting to see these large hail reports as well coming out of the Terre Haute area, and 60 to 70 mile per hour wind gusts in a lot of these cells as well, with very large hail as these move further to the east. I think the good news so far is I'm not seeing super strong signals for rotation, which is some good news at the very least. But certainly the threat is not off the table.
Yeah, I would agree, Brett. I think, and this is one of the risks to the forecast, if you will, that we had been, discussing, especially over the past few lives, over the past couple of days here. Now, obviously, we're not saying that, there's not going to be any tornadoes. The tornado threat is over. But when you're in more of a linear mode like this, and I'm not seeing as many discrete cells, that makes me feel, at least in the short term, a little bit better about significant tornado potential. Now, again, with that being said, we need to keep an eye as this leading edge moves into especially southern Indiana, because Brett, just looking at the environment out ahead of this thing, it's still, it can still intensify a little bit further here, I would think, especially as we get closer to that I-69 corridor here.
Yeah, that's a great point. As these move east, it's continuing to work into an environment conducive to strengthening. I'm going to get maybe some rough timing a little bit further down to the south with these cells out near Sullivan, Indiana, for folks in Greenwood and Franklin. And so to give an idea here, Ellettsville 647, Bloomington 654-ish, give or take. And then we've got Martinsville 707. Continuing to go down here, Morgantown 718, Mooresville 718. Move this so maybe you all can see it a little bit better. Let's see here. It's not giving me Bargersville 728. So Bargersville, Greenwood 728, 730 would be kind of the rough estimate, which is a little under 2 hours in terms of these storms out near Sullivan and Jasonville. I've got a new picture from Hope I'm going to share real quick.
Yeah, that's where we're starting to get into the golf ball sized hail, I think, right there.
Yeah, so this is Terre Haute. This is from, let's see here. She didn't Didn't say who this is from, but this is in Terre Haute. So we've got a large hail, looks like golf ball sized hail in Terre Haute, Indiana, associated with this cell. All right, here. Current power outages, we have in Northwest Indiana, 88,000 people without power right now. I will pull that up as well. There we go. So here's the current power outages map from kind of that first line that moved through. You can see 60 to 70% of these counties up here. And John, maybe you know, I am not as familiar with the county names up here, but we have 60, 50, 60, 70% of these counties up here without power. And that's updated as of 5:30. I would imagine that we're going to continue to see reports come in.
Yeah, that's Stark, Pulaski, Fulton, and I think Marshall that are in those orange and red ones.
There you go.
So those are those main ones here. I just was conferring with my team as well here, Brett, and it looks like that we have a new severe thunderstorm watch that has just been issued ahead of this kind of main arcing, almost derecho type feature here. That's got the bigger severe thunderstorm warnings. Northwestern Ohio, central and eastern Michigan here does include Detroit, Flint, and Toledo. And that watch, let me take a look here.
Yeah, so that's going to include Greenville, Bellefontaine. It's going to include Toledo, Findlay, Fremont, Ohio, in northwestern parts of Ohio. We also have, again, Detroit, Lansing. Man, look at this lineup in Michigan as well. We've got severe thunderstorm warnings from central Michigan and Grand Rapids all the way down to northern Arkansas right now. This is a very, very large line of storms right now. And it's not often that you get intense storms like this and confirmed tornadoes into southern and central Michigan as well. So certainly a notable severe weather for them as event for them as well. I would say that if anything, verifying even a little bit stronger further north than the initial idea.
Yeah, most definitely. And this is and I think that the severe thunderstorm watch is well warranted here. I honestly think that this particular feature can continue to go into eastern Michigan without losing a lot of steam here. So definitely, and also as well for those of you in southeastern Indiana, so more towards Madison, Louisville suburbs here, and then towards Cincinnati, there's likely, I would say, I don't have an exact percentage, 90% that you're going to see another type of watch being issued here in the next couple hours as this line, which is moving a little bit slower, continues to move to the east here. So definitely still going to be seeing those 70-mile-per-hour plus risks, large hail, and even a few tornadoes extend even further to the east of where the ongoing tornado watch is currently in effect.
Yeah, so a couple of people asking about the sun. You know, how's it sunny, but it's about to storm. Well, here you go. Sun's probably going to be out right until the storms reach your doorstep, really, which doesn't happen all that often. And again, it's going to help these storms sustain themselves, if not intensify. The sun fuels these storms. It will allow for these storms to continue to likely be severe as they push through. The red overlay that I have here is the tornado watch that's in effect. So you can kind of see your county and your city here. We've got a tornado watch from Western Tennessee all the way up through northeastern Indiana right now. This tornado watch for central Indiana goes for another 2 hours. And that will also include the large hail and the damaging wind threats as these storms press further off to the east.
Yeah, the sun here, guys, is definitely obviously seeing our forecast verify to an extent is meteorologists, we want to see that, but it's from a severe standpoint, it's just not good to see the sun out ahead because we become more concerned about those severe characteristics and hazards that can be in play. So honestly, I'd much rather see the clouds out in front ahead of this here. That would show us a little bit maybe less destabilization, but definitely and yeah, it looks like, Brett, you're about to show the future radar, which last I checked is doing pretty good at least seeing the structure and the evolution of this as it pushes to the east here.
Yeah, I would say that this latest run, John, may be pretty good. I would say that it's seen the evolution pretty decently. It might be a tick slow, might be 15 to 30 minutes slow in some spots. This is 6:30. I'll zoom this out maybe so you all can see the time a little bit at the bottom. But this is, let's see, there we go. You can kind of see it at the bottom. There we go, 6:30. Okay, so you can see this is at about 6:30. Could it be 6:15? That's possible, but you can see that these storms progressing further to the east. Just to break down some timing for you all throughout the rest of the evening, this is by about 7 o'clock. And so, as we talked about earlier, starting to work these storms into Monroe County, into Morgan County, Johnson County, Shelby County, eventually Bartholomew County. This is by about 7:30, guys. These storms still very likely severe, rolling through central parts of Indiana. Further down to the south, we've still got storms. Look at some of these supercells data trying to depict down here in western parts of Kentucky. By the time we work into about 8 o'clock, guys, still a decent line of storms, likely still severe weather potential, working into eastern and southeastern Indiana from just west of Richmond, Newcastle, Columbus, Seymour, Salem, heading towards Austin, Indiana at about 8 o'clock. By the time we work into 8:30, this line may be speeding up a little bit as the front starts to swing in. But severe storms possible from Louisville to Madison, just west of Madison, Scottsburg, Indiana, up towards Batesville. Further back to the west, we have additional development possible in western Kentucky and southwestern Indiana. So more storms possible for Evansville at this point, Boonville, Tell City down there in southwest Indiana. Here's 9 o'clock, guys. We'll zoom this out so folks in Ohio can see the simulated radar as well. I would say at this point, John, at 9 o'clock, any of these storms still have the potential to be severe. From western Ohio all the way down through northeast Arkansas.
Yeah, absolutely. And it wouldn't surprise me if even there's a couple more breaks in the line. It might not look as nice as that on radar, but even so, guys, the point that we're trying to get across is that this is a much more widespread threat. There isn't as many scattered, pocket scattered cells here, if you will. When you start dealing with these lines of storms, we're not really going to rule anyone out from missing anything here. It's definitely those damaging winds that are going to be the more widespread hazard. But again, as Brett said, there's going to be embedded pockets of large hail. There's going to be embedded pockets or a few embedded areas of rotation that we'll have to monitor for tornadoes. And even in that particular latest run here, it's interesting to me that northern Tennessee, southern Kentucky still has some of those discrete cells out ahead. At that time, as we get beyond 8 p.m., that would be, Brett, the ripe area, if you will, for there to be some tornadoes as well.
Yeah, I think that I think at this point, based off of what I see in terms of rotation and in terms of storms, I think that if there's a tornado threat, it's down here. I'm not super impressed with the tornado threat in central Indiana right now.
Yeah.
And so, as this has evolved, I think that with it congealing into a line so quickly, that the higher threat is kind of down here where you get a little bit more of these discrete cells. And so again, this is 8:30, Evansville, Owensboro, Bowling Green, Paducah, Mayfield, Madisonville in Kentucky. I'd be a little bit more concerned about in terms of a tornado threat than Louisville, Madison, Columbus, Bloomington, Indy, in that area in there. And so, this is 8:30, still hail and wind possible to the north, but I'd say the better tornado threat further south and to the west. I won't rule it out around here. There's still wind energy. There's still some rotation potential, but I think it's better to the south.
Yeah, I completely agree. And just looking over here on the latest radar and clicking over to velocity, we're still seeing good signatures here for large hail, quarter to golf ball, and definitely some 60, 65 mile per hour gusts, but we're just not seeing any. I'm not seeing at least any, Brett. I don't know about you, any major rotation signals with those two, one coming south of I-70 and the other one approaching Indianapolis quickly here.
No, and in fact, if you turn on the rotation tracks right now, there's really not much. There's really not much right now in terms of rotation with these storms. Nothing super impressive right now. I was going to say the one that does look impressive is down here And unfortunately, this is an area that got hit hard by a tornado just 10 days ago, which is a tornado warning now, including Poplar Bluff, Missouri. This is the area, again, that I'm most concerned about rotation. If I go back over to the other, I'm going to draw. I'm going to go back real quick. Give me 1 second, guys. And I'm going to go back to the latest run of the HRRR because I like it a little bit better. And I'm going to circle an area that I think needs to be perhaps most on the lookout for tornadoes. So give me 1 moment, guys. And John, if you see
yeah, while you're pulling that up here, there's a couple questions I want to address here. So yeah, there are a lot of events going on downtown Indianapolis right now with the with the Elite Eight in play. So I would say in general for your Indianapolis area here, especially as we get closer to around that 6:30 time frame, is when we're looking for definitely some gusts of 60 miles per hour and some large hail. So if you are trying to figure out commuting, trying to leave, trying to get there, being mindful of that as these storms, approach there. One other thing I do want to mention here as well is absolutely, if we see some discrete cells that can form out, I know the simulated radar didn't show that, but for southern Indiana, even western Ohio, as that line pushes from west to east, guys, that definitely still keeps some tornado potential on the table here for sure. Again, we're not emphasizing that there's not going to be any more tornadoes. It's all over. It's just right now, at least for what we're seeing in central Indiana, which is a good thing. It's a much lower end risk right now, given how these storms have evolved over the past 30 minutes to an hour.
Yeah, and that's a great point. And, I'm just looking at kind of the latest run here. So I'm going to go back and share my screen again real quick. So let's see here. Okay, number one, here's this. So if I go back down here real quick, look at all of the large hail reports down here. So also note how really the only tornado warning right now is down here where the largest hail reports are. And so I think what ultimately we're going to be dealing with, guys, is your large hail and your greatest rotation going to be from these storms down here in northern Arkansas and southeast Missouri. And if you look at the latest run here of the HRRR, and I'll shift over my screen real quick. There we go. So these are the helicity tracks. And so basically this is indicating the storms that are capable of stronger rotation, stronger updrafts, which can lead to very large hail and the potential for tornadoes. And note how these tracks are very concentrated here across central Tennessee, across western Tennessee, and across, western Kentucky and southern Illinois. And so I would say highest tornado threat, Evansville, Owensboro, Bowling Green, Clarksville, Nashville, Memphis, Tennessee. These areas in here, further to the north, you can see that the tracks just aren't as impressive. And so it doesn't mean that there's not going to be severe weather. I think damaging winds and large hail, but I just think that the higher tornado threat is evolving further down to the south. And where the largest hail is right now and where the tornado warning is right now, that's exactly where these tracks kind of initialize from.
Yeah, Brett, it seems like the only gap right now in warnings, or at least where we don't have severe thunderstorm warnings, is that edge between Muncie and Danville here. That's kind of where definitely some stronger storms there right now. Still gusts of 50, some smaller hail, but right now there's a little bit of a split between the most severe aspects of this line currently.
Yeah, and that's just kind of a result of that first wave to the north and the second wave to the south. And some of these areas on the north side just kind of getting split a little bit with the two worst lines. And so, northeast Indiana obviously had the very damaging winds, still have a severe thunderstorm warning up here. Then we have the secondary line down here with additional severe thunderstorm warnings. And so it's just kind of, as you mentioned, Muncie, Marion, Kokomo, kind of in those areas in there, just kind of in between the two main lines of storms that we've dealt with this afternoon. Let's see here. new tornado warning up here, John. Look at that, Green Rapids.
Yes, yeah, just to the east of downtown here. You know, looking at velocity here, Brett, there's definitely some straight line 70-mile-per-hour potential there as well. But even more so, if you were to overlay velocity from there to the Michigan-Indiana border, there is at least 6 or 7 notches right now along that line where there's probably some crazy damaging winds and even some rotation. I'm gonna toggle rotation here, see if it's seen that as well. Not as a little bit, definitely higher rotation that we're seeing towards Grand Rapids for sure. But there's just a very powerful line of storms. Let's just put it that way.
Yep. So real quick, I wanted to pull this up. So this is kind of a latest nowcast in terms of the timing of some of these strong storms across southwestern Indiana. And so we're looking just northwest of Evansville at 7 p.m. Bloomington's probably 6:30 based off of this update here. Vincennes, this will be 5:30. And so this is Central Time, I believe. And so, okay, so that would be 7:30 Bloomington, 8 p.m. Eastern for Evansville, 7 p.m. Central. Vincennes would be 5:30 p.m. Central Time. You know, it always confuses me, John, that we shift from Central to Eastern Time in the southwestern Indiana area, which always gets me.
Yeah.
I don't know why we can't just be easy and say, Illinois, you're in Central Time, Indiana, you're in Eastern Time, but alas, we are not. I'll go over here to... So for those of you just hopping on, John, would you still say this timing is okay?
Let me take a look here. I would say based on that Indianapolis, that cell just to the west of Indianapolis now here, it's starting to get, the leading edge of it is now starting to get more towards Plainfield. I would say downtown probably still close to 6:30, 6:40. So maybe a little bit slower on the southern edge by about 10 minutes or so. But it could even be a situation, Brett, here based on what the last system did where it starts to outflow a little bit more and the gusts maybe precede the actual core of the storm too. That would not surprise me as well.
Sure. What speed do you have this at right now?
We were just getting 45. Let's remeasure here.
So that puts it at 6:30 for downtown.
Okay.
Based off of the middle part, let's say, of this storm. I'll move this over so you all can see it. So in terms of this severe thunderstorm warning, which is for 1 inch in diameter hail and 60-mile-per-hour winds, we're looking at this moving into downtown Indy in about 30 minutes or so, 30, 40 minutes, give or take, 5 or 10 minutes there. So yeah, 6:34 is what this says here. And then we've got Warren Park, Glendale Heights at about 6:40. Plainfield is about 6:16 in terms of the worst of this. Although I would imagine, as you mentioned, John, we're getting an outflow. So some of those winds may be a little bit earlier than that for the Danville, well, just east of Danville and Plainfield.
Absolutely. And I just got closer to 42, 43. So I would say we're generally still on track as this continues to push in. Getting really good hail signals still just to the west of Clay City, more along that Sullivan County storm here as it's pushing. And that again is going to hit closer to Bloomington, Ellettsville, Gosport, and then just to the south of Cloverdale here, I would say that one's probably might speed up a little bit too, but it's probably, I would say right now in the central Indiana area, that is the most severe storm at this time.
Yeah, so Martinsville, if this is 42 miles an hour like the one to the north, if it speeds up a little bit, then, it'll be here a little bit faster. But that would put it at Martinsville at 7:01. And that would put it at, let me see. Let me get this on Bloomington too. I want to get this on Bloomington a little bit further down to the south. There we go. Maybe 45, John?
I just got 47 on it, so I think that part of the line maybe is just a little bit faster.
Okay, we'll split the difference. 46.
Yes, good idea.
So splitting the difference there. Here's timing on this cell a little bit further down to the south. We're going to have it at Hendricksville at 640, Ellettsville at 648, Gosport at 650, Bloomington 653 in terms of this line to the south. Large hail, damaging winds going to be the main threat with this as it pushes further to the east. Martinsville 708, which I think is the same as what we said earlier. Morgantown 716, Bargersville 726 as this continues to move to the north and to the east. And so Johnson County, you're looking at 7 to 730 probably from west to east, I would say. As this line pushes, this is what we need to be monitoring.
Yeah, and Brett, I'm getting some more damage reports. I don't have pictures yet, starting to come in here from this northeastern Indiana storm as well. Just to highlight that line again here, north of Huntington, there's a few trucks that have been blown over. And then Columbia City, just northeast of Warsaw, south of Ligonier, were multiple reports of trees and power lines down. So I would imagine, based on that graphic we showed earlier that Hope provided, the power outages will continue to expand east, not only for northeastern Indiana, but unfortunately probably maybe a little bit more isolated, I'd say, in central Indiana, but still a very powerful storm system, and power outages are unfortunately a part of that here.
Let's see here. Wow. Okay. This is holy moly. Okay. I've got a new report Hope just sent me from Terre Haute, which tells me that this severe warning needs to not be for 60, but probably 70 to 80, based off of this damage report that she just sent me in Terre Haute. This is pretty wild. Let me share my screen, my other screen. I've got about 15 screens. But here we go. This is out of Terre Haute. Look at that. So a lot of power line damage there. Power lines down. You can see the power poles. Gosh, looks like broken in half. It's crazy. Who sent that? Hope, do you know? 100,000 people without power in Indiana right now. Yep. Hope just said. So Eric says pea-sized hail, no significant wind in Danville right now with that line. I would say, yeah, that storm to the north doesn't look quite as impressive right now.
Yeah, the past few runs, it's starting to. It's a strong storm, let's put it that way, but it's not showing nearly what it showed about 30 minutes ago as it was approaching the Indy area. So that's good news. We'll take
it. And this is a good opportunity with that picture up to remind you all, don't go near down power lines. Call the local law enforcement or the electric company. If you have damage at your property, whether it's electric or gas meter, whatever the case may be, make sure to call your local company and have them come out and take a look at things. Don't go and try to mess around with power lines. And of course, if things have been uprooted, don't go digging around. Call that 811 number. Make sure that you are safe as you analyze the damage as these storms move through. Okay. So yeah, that's wild there in Terre Haute. We do have a new severe thunderstorm warning that I saw had been issued on the south side here of this line of storms for 70-mile-per-hour winds. Again, based off of that report in Terre Haute, I don't disagree with that. Here's a look. We've got 60-mile-per-hour winds with the severe warning. That's going to include Ellettsville, just to the west of Bloomington at this point, guys. Still no tornado warnings on this line, and really no notable rotation to mention. Really, the only one that has notable rotation is this one that's just southwest of Poplar Bluff in Missouri right now. All these other storms are primarily hail and wind. And so certainly it looks like the tornado threat, as we mentioned earlier, is just not looking all that impressive. But I do think the hail threat still looks pretty notable. In fact, look at this storm out in Missouri. How about 2.5-inch diameter hail? And then a lot of the storms showing 1-inch plus diameter hail showing up. In fact, this one just northeast of Sullivan looks like 1.5 inch plus in diameter right now. And then again, a lot of these producing damaging wind reports as well. So wind and hail looks to continue to be the primary modes of severe weather, which is good. It's good. Obviously, the higher end tornado threat seems to be diminished a little bit, which we're not going to complain about. Certainly the initial idea not going to be as notable in terms of tornadoes, but I think that the idea in terms of hail and wind very much still on the table as these storms move east.
Absolutely, Brett. And one other thing I do want to point out too, it's a very young cell. It's not producing any severe characteristics yet, but let's watch this pop up by Jasper. It just is right in the sector where if it can get going and develop a little bit more, that might be one to at least keep an eye on here as we get closer. I'd say to maybe around 7. Again, it's not a severe storm yet. Of course, it's young, but sometimes these couple cells that can form out ahead of the line in an environment like this are at least worth monitoring for sure.
Yeah. And again, that's Southwest Indiana, maybe the region that could have a little bit of a higher chance for a rotating storm.
Marissa, I saw your comment earlier there. That's an awesome point for sure. Definitely be patient with the utility companies and emergency services as they're working on repairing things and stuff like that. That's an excellent point for sure. They work very hard to make sure that power is restored as quick as possible. So definitely good thought there.
Yeah. So somebody says down power lines in Carmel too.
Okay.
Hailing bad. I'm going through some of the comments now. Hailing bad in Brownsburg. Columbus, guys, in terms of timing with this, if we're moving it, let's see here, kind of the southern part of this. If we're moving at 45 miles an hour, 67 miles away. Do some quick math. Hour and a half. 7:40, 7:45 probably for Columbus, give or take 10 or 15 minutes. Let's see, what else do we have here? Dime-sized hail in Coatesville. Is this going to hit Speedway, Indiana? Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes. Speedway, Indiana. Going to be on your doorstep before we know it, really. Here's a look. We'll go back to the north here. You can see these storms bearing down on the northwest side at this point. We've got storms moving into Carmel. We've seen some reports of damage up there, wind and hail. These aren't incredibly powerful storms on the north side right now, but these storms are still severe warned just to the west in both northwest Monroe County and including Danville and Clayton. Again, pea-sized hail reports in Plainfield, but not seen severe reports in Plainfield, at least not yet. Hail in Avon. And guys, in a second, I will go back through the simulated radar to give you an idea of the rest of the evening. But I'm just kind of trying to nowcast things with this line right now as it moves into the Indianapolis metro area. And what we will probably do, guys, is once this is through kind of the Indy metro area, unless there are tornadoes that are popping up, we'll probably hop off and update periodically on Facebook. So if you want more specific timing details and stuff after this moves through the Indy metro area, I highly encourage you scanning that QR code in the top left. That's a 7-day free trial of Clarity Pro. Again, it's intended for businesses. Clarity is an elite platform. It's to help decision makers, but there's no rules on who can and can't sign up for that 7-day free trial. There's no credit card required. Certainly, if you're a business, they are making decisions based off of the weather, would highly recommend doing that. You can also sign up for that trial at bamwx.com/get started. Or if you go to our website, bamwx.com, you can click that Get Instant Access button to learn a little bit more about Clarity and what the trial will entail. So, is there a discussion to move the tornado watch east? I haven't seen anything, John. Let me pull up. Are there any new MDs out?
No, and while we can't fully know exactly what the Storm Prediction Center is thinking, and the ones that issue the watches, I would say they're probably waiting to see if there's any of these, one, if any of these discrete cells can do anything, but two, if any more rotating tornado-like storms develop, that would be maybe where they would extend the tornado watch. Right now, it might just end up being a severe thunderstorm watch. So we gotta just kind of wait and see here as this line continues to push east here. Brett, I'm actually going to spend a couple minutes here looking ahead at the environment and seeing what's going on.
I'm starting to notice this line really getting its act together in western Indiana here, with these severe thunderstorm warnings southwest of Indianapolis, west of Bloomington, west of Bedford. I'm noticing a kind of a more general west to east movement on them. I'm also starting to maybe see some of the clearing out of the precipitation, the reflectivity. I'm wondering if these are about to get their act together in terms of wind. They're starting to look pretty impressive in terms of wind and hail. These storms through here. Let me switch back over to the other radar. So here's kind of the area that I'm talking about. This area looks impressive right now, John, I would say, in terms of just organization. Again, we've had reports of large hail and damaging winds. And in general, this is going to be moving kind of off in this direction in here. And so these will be the storms that impact Johnson County. These will be the storms that impact Brown County, Monroe County, Lawrence County, Bartholomew County, as these push to the east. And again, I think starting to really organize, still monitoring these cells out ahead. I'm not seeing them do anything impressive as of just yet. But right now, I would be on the lookout if you're kind of in these areas between my arrows for large hail damaging winds over the next hour and a half or so.
Yeah, and I just was consulting with Jonathan Kipper here, one of our other meteorologists. We're getting ready to start working on another nowcast for southern Indiana. And for those of you that are not familiar with nowcasts, what they do is they provide more of a visual to our clients as to what is coming, whether it's timing, whether it's severe hazards. So while the warnings are great for you need to act instantly, the nowcast can sometimes provide 1 to 2, even 3 or 4 hours in advance of knowing when severe weather and hazards are pushing in. So again, just another great example of what we have in clarity. But yeah, the timings here, Brett, I definitely think if there's going to be an area where we see a little bit more severe weather than say or Indianapolis, Greencastle, it's going to be that area you got highlighted right there.
Yeah, so this is kind of where the storms, I think, are starting to organize a little bit. Large hail, damaging winds. I wouldn't be shocked to see in some of these areas 70-mile-per-hour wind gusts or even locally higher. There's also a lot of lightning I'm noticing with this line compared to other parts of the line. And so that's an indication of strength as well, that this is probably the area that is the strongest right now in terms of just how these storms are going to evolve. And so Bloomington, this is at 649 based off of this. As we continue to look further to the east, we've got, let's see, Bedford at about 7 o'clock. Maybe that's a touch too fast, but Martinsville 7:04, Mitchell 7:07, Nashville 7:10, guys. Then we kind of continue to go down here. Franklin, it's going to put it in Franklin at right about 7:30. And again, I think Franklin Point South, Columbus as well, 7:33, could be looking at damaging wind gusts and large hail with this line. I'm going to look real quick at the hail signal. Yeah, still some decent hail with some of these storms as well.
For sure. And along that area you've got highlighted too, we've received a couple of observed 70-mile-per-hour gusts as well. So definitely that warning, those warning areas and that line as it's pushing east is advancing.
Yeah, and I see Kipper working on a new graphic in terms of timing right now. I'm going to roughly draw on here what he has drawn in terms of timing. So let's see. 7. Look at that. 7 p.m. That's scientific. We've got 8 p.m. right through this area. So that's 8 p.m. And then 9 p.m. will be out towards the border. We could call this 8:30. And we could call this 7:30. So these lines giving you an idea of when storms are going to arrive. So 7:30 here. Let me draw this up here. 7:30, 8 o'clock, and we've got 8:30 for this far eastern line. So,
and guys, again, this is timing for the main line of severe weather, the active severe weather that's pushing from west to east here.
So there you go. Each line, kind of a half an hour increment. So Bloomington to Bedford, around 7. Franklin to Columbus to Salem, around 7:30. 8 o'clock, Greensburg to North Vernon, to probably Clark County, Jeffersonville, if storms are still extending that far south. And then we've got, Madison, just east of Madison, 8:30 to Connorsville at about 8:30. So we're going to continue to kind of let these storms push east over the next, 20 minutes or so, see how they evolve. But right now, no severe warnings for downtown Indianapolis.
Which is great news. Yeah, if you're in the Indianapolis area, you're likely going to be seeing some, heavy rain downpours, some small hail, a few stronger gusts to 40 plus. But in terms of this severe weather, Brett, unless you disagree, I think we can safely say that for now, that risk does not look as promising right now, which again is good news.
Yeah. Right now, in terms of additional severe weather threats, look at that tornado report down here, guys, by the way, in southern Missouri. That area, again, just got hit so hard. But if I had to kind of highlight threats ahead, this area here for Indiana would be the area to monitor. North of that, you're probably okay at this point. Would you agree, John?
Yeah, I would say so. Again, we'll keep an eye on a few localized embedded stronger gusts, but I think for now we can safely say that the majority of the severe threat, if not all of it, has ended for your area.
So now, again, I'm focusing on Indiana. I'll do a wider view in a second. This area, perhaps, if there's any kind of tornado threat, it would have to be down here. Although I don't see anything crazy right now. Some of these cells out to the west, look at all these numbers that you see, large hail reports. So that area in red as well, potentially in terms of notable large hail, could be very much at play. So let me kind of color code this for you all here in a second. And in fact, I'm going to turn this over to MRMS so we can kind of get a better wide view picture of what's going on right now. In terms of the tornado threat, the main tornado threat, I'm going to make that pink. I really think it's this area in here, based off what we're seeing right now. And you could even make the argument that Southwest Indiana is up for debate. I think in terms of wind, I'm going to make that orange. I think that you're looking at, this area. Include the pink area too, but you're looking at that area in terms of wind and hail. And then this pink area is going to be all modes. So tornado, wind, and hail.
I think that's an absolutely perfect drawing, Brett. It's exactly how I feel like it's going to play out as well too.
I think I'm going to draw this in green because you're good to go. I think that, I don't know, maybe this area is something ISO in terms of severe, but I think that there's not anything super notable if you're, north of this line, roughly. Oh no, it didn't stop drawing. So yeah, that's where we're at right now, I would say. These storms are moving at roughly about 45 miles per hour right now. Still kind of keeping an eye maybe on this cell near Jasper, but
Yeah, Brett, it's starting to get higher up in the atmosphere and produce lightning. So I would say it's trying to strengthen. It's so far the only one that's showing at least something. It's obviously got a long way to go if it can do anything. But that would be the cell that I would watch if I were in southern Indiana right now.
yep, for sure. But yeah, that's kind of the analysis, guys. This is the main round at this point. So the one that went through, middle of the afternoon, that was kind of the first wave. Now we've kind of congealed the whole line at this point, and so this is the main wave that is moving into Indiana right now. Guys, for the person that just said uneventful again, tell that to the people in Terre Haute that just got slammed with large hail and damaging winds, and to the folks in northern Indiana that just got 70 to 80 mile per hour winds. With all due respect, stop. Just stop. The tornado threat is lower, and we've acknowledged that, and that's a good thing. We're going to be happy that that has evolved like that.
Brett, something else interesting to share too here. Porter County Airport has been knocked off their observed station that measures the winds. The winds were so strong, apparently it knocked it offline. So that's that. The last gusts it had were around 80 miles per hour, and that was from earlier in the storm thing. But yeah, those people in northern Indiana did not miss out on this. So if you're in central Indiana and upset that you didn't get anything, you need to be thankful that you didn't, because these storms have not been at all amusing, and there's a lot of power outages up here in northern Indiana. So
yeah, somebody said, who wants a tornado to level your house? No, you don't want that. You do not want that. Basically, guys, to kind of summarize what's evolved is this first line did this number. Let me change the color. That's hard to see. The first line did this number. It went, through here, right? And the second line is doing this number, going through here. We're just in the old I-70 bubble, which is good luck. It's just good luck. And the tornado threat hasn't quite as evolved quite as notably, but there were several tornado warnings to the north as well with this. And we're out of the woods in southwestern Indiana, western Kentucky either. So let's see. Tyler says new storms popping up. Yep, Martinsville. That cell near Shoals needs to be monitored still. Thankful for the I-70 bubbled. You all labeled this. I'm gonna continue to battle back here for a second, and then I'm gonna let it go. A level 5 threat today. Yes, and there are 100,000 people without power across northern Indiana. That is a lot of people. Just because it did not verify in a few county rows in central Indiana does not mean that it did not verify in terms of wind. So that's, I will leave it at that. I will leave it at that. John, anything else that you're noticing right now?
no, I've been looking a little bit even further south towards southern Missouri, northern Arkansas, where things are more disorganized, more tornado warnings. It's kind of starting to watch that more for western Kentucky and further southwest of Indiana here. I think if there's a place that I think we can start to see storms intensify, it would be from probably from Evansville all the way further to the southwest towards the boot of Missouri. I think that's going to be just kind of that line right there.
Yeah.
is looking very impressive as it starts to get going here.
Yeah, and there's a new tornado warning down here. And so this is always kind of in the area with the highest threat. And so what John's talking about is what roughly this area in here as these storms kind of move east. In terms of very large hail, there's a lot of 1.5 to 2 inch diameter hail reports through this area as well. And so very large hail and wind, or and wind and tornadoes possible in this area. And a couple of these here showing some signs of rotating for sure. So far southwest Indiana, western Kentucky, western Tennessee, southeast Missouri, and southern Illinois through this area in here. Probably the biggest severe weather threat for the rest of the evening when you consider all three modes of severe weather.
Absolutely. Starting to get reports now, Brett, that it is indeed hailing downtown Indianapolis. It's small hail, but it's hailing. NPINGs confirm it, so at least still dealing with some stronger storms up there. But yeah, again, it's those cells that are starting to approach Bloomington and Bedford here. Again, along that I-69 corridor. That's where at least for those of you in Indiana, that's where we're continuing to watch the potential for those severe gusts and large hail for the most part here.
Yeah, and probably what we're going to do here, guys, is I'm going to let them issue the warnings, and we'll do a little analysis for Johnson, Monroe, Morgan, and Brown County here, and then we may sign off given the lack of a tornado threat. But still, these cells are warned for 70-mile-per-hour winds. So these cells here, 70-mile-per-hour wind gusts and 1-inch diameter hail. And so these will be working kind of in this general region here over the next 30 to 60 minutes or so. So, and again, we've had damage reports. If there's any other reports that you all have as these move east, certainly send them our way, because that helps us alert folks out ahead of those storms as well.
Brett, real quickly before they put that new warning together here, can you toggle up the power outages again here, just so we can look at that here as well? Or I can
Yeah,
the image here. I got it somewhere.
Let me see here. There should be a new update. Yeah, here we go. So now with these storms just getting into central Indiana, starting to see some of those pop up. So here's the current power outages map. 100,000 people without power right now, especially in northwest Indiana. Starting to see some reports of a few folks without power in west central Indiana here. I would imagine that picture we showed with the down power lines and the down power poles probably contributing a little bit to this. This was updated 10 minutes ago. There's probably a little bit of a lag, excuse me, in terms of this updating. But 100,000 viewers, 100,000 people without power right now.
Yeah, see, Brett, and I think that's the cheat code right there. You can overlay it with your cursor and see the county name, so we don't always have to have the counties memorized. I think that's
there you go. Yeah,
that's the good part about it. There we go.
Pulaski County, Stark County, Marshall, Fulton. That's what I was looking for earlier.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, guys, let's see here. Go back to the radar real quick. Wow, look at that hail signal down here near Bicknell. It's a pretty notable hail signal. So looks like a new mesoscale discussion down here, John.
Yeah, let me go ahead and read that here real quick.
So wind damage potential is expected to increase, and wind gusts above 70 miles per hour will become likely. Let's see here. Supercells could produce hailstones greater than 2 inches in diameter. And the low-level wind shear in this area will be increasingly favorable for tornadoes. And so this is exactly what I had just circled a little bit ago. This area, so if you were in this area, so Louisville, Evansville, Jasper, Owensboro, Kentucky, Bowling Green, Kentucky, Mayfield, Paducah, Carbondale, Jackson, Tennessee, Clarksville, Tennessee. This is the area we are most concerned about severe weather. Very large hail, more than 2 inches in diameter, damaging wind gusts, more than 70 mile per hour wind gusts, and then a couple of tornadoes, maybe a couple of strong tornadoes. Those areas we are the most concerned about, that it's circled in red right now. And so, if you have friends and family, Louisville area, Evansville area, Owensboro, Paducah, tag them here because this is where I'm most concerned about this threat. Hail in Mooresville. Still haven't seen them. I would imagine soon they're going to be expanding these warnings south of the.
Brett, we're starting to see a little bit of a slight intensification from Monrovia to Mooresville, just in terms of radar DBZ here. At least I'm seeing that on Scope and Omega. I think probably leading to maybe some hail closer to half an inch towards dime size at best, based on some of the M pings I'm seeing. And there's, if you look at some of the radar ahead of there, some potential for still some 40 to 50 mile per hour gusts. So again, that's more to the storm just to the south of Indianapolis. I think it's the severe risks are still low end, but just something. Oh, there we go with that radar update. Yeah, we're starting to see a little bit of maybe a final charge here with the hail here.
Yeah, you can see just radar trying to pick up on some of the hail, getting some more lightning as well. There's the new warning. Okay. Wow, they just did a huge warning.
Yep.
So 1.25 inches and 60 mile per hour winds for the next 45 minutes. So out through 7:15. That's going to include Bloomington, Bedford, Guthrie, Martinsville. It's going to include Bargersville. It's going to include Mooresville, guys, with these storms moving to the east. And again, that was the one that we were concerned about. And so just a general idea, this whole area, this whole storm warned for 1.25 inches hail and 60 mile per hour wind gust. And as you mentioned, John, I still need to watch this guy down here heading towards Mitchell, starting to intensify a little bit as well.
Yeah, I was just talking with Jonathan about that here. It doesn't have a hook on it, but if you're looking at, as meteorologists, when we're looking at the wind speeds in the directions above, kind of above the cell, if you will, we're starting to see a little bit of rotation beginning. Again, nowhere near what I would say tornadic, but it's starting to get organized. So we need to be, for those of you Bedford or just south of Bedford, I'd say Mitchell, and then even towards Brownstown. Let's keep an eye on this cell here, just out ahead of the main line.
Yeah, you can see a little bit of rotation, John, starting to show up just south of Shoals. Alrighty. So here's the wide view right now. And I think I saw Kipper maybe put out another timing graphic a little bit ago.
Yeah, updated one about 15 minutes ago for southern half of Indiana. Yeah, that's the one.
So a lot of folks still asking about timing. So there's a look at timing. 640, which is pretty much spot on right now in terms of where these storms are moving into Monroe County. So 640, kind of western Monroe County, which lines up. And then we've got about 710 western Johnson County, 740 Columbus, Shelbyville, southeast of Bedford. And then we've got, Seymour, Salem at 810, and then 840, kind of just west of Madison, Indiana. So here's your timing. Here's your timing over the next couple of hours. Michael's sending some good pictures here of. By the way, for those of you that watched earlier, Michael did unfortunately not get on his plane for his vacation. It was unfortunately canceled. But it would be flying out right now, so probably for the best. Yeah, so we're still keeping an eye. I'm going to go over. Looks like that cell's splitting, John.
Yeah, Matt and I were just talking about that. So what that and it's splitting a little bit too early. And what I mean by that is that if these cells split too early, they usually become weaker, and sometimes, especially the one that's on the left side or the north, can be choked off a little bit. But what we need to watch out for now is that split on the northern edge, and Brett will pull it up here in a second. That's the cell, as that heads into Bedford, that will more than likely have some large hail with it. It's the cell that's going to be more just to the south of Mitchell here, more along the, I would say, Lawrence, I believe that's Lawrence, Orange County line area. Yes, more towards Orangeville there, towards SR 37. That's the one that if we can see some more rotation there, that we would have to watch for at least a low end type tornado risk here. But yeah, those are the two cells that are of interest right now.
Yep. So right here, you can see on this radar image, cell number 1, cell number 2, getting them to kind of split here, guys. Probably that one will move a little bit further east. This one will kind of go that direction in here. Certainly worth keeping an eye on here. This single kind of supercell for rotation potential. And I do real quick want to zoom this back out because I do want to take a look at this tornado down here because this has been going for a little while now. And it's going right through, again, an area that just got hit with tornadoes 10 days ago. And we do have a tornado report here. Looks like a train spotter did report a tornado on the ground just southwest of Poplar Bluff. We still have a tornado warning. It's radar indicated right now. This will be working into eventually western Kentucky. If this stays this strong and it stays with this look, this will be pushing towards Paducah here eventually, kind of going in this direction here. So western Kentucky, Paducah, Mayfield, kind of in this region in here needs to be on the lookout with this cell that has had a history of producing tornadoes over the last hour or two.
Well, Brett, it's starting to get dark here at the office. Wind's starting to get going here a little bit, but just by looking outside, the sunshine is no more.
Which means the storms are going to be here on the doorstep soon. Yeah. Alrighty. I'm going to go through and look at some questions here. And I'm going to put the radar back on Central Indiana. Still watching this cell kind of split out here. A little notch here, southwest of Bloomington, that is somewhat interesting.
Yeah, I wonder if this is the outflow helping interact a little bit more from that cell about 30, 40 minutes ago here towards Indianapolis, if that's starting to help maybe a little bit. It's hard to say. I've been trying to go back and forth with the radar scans here, Brad. I can't tell, but it wouldn't surprise me either if that's having at least a little bit of influence.
Yeah, at least maybe worth keeping an eye on this line. A couple of little notches in here. Nothing notable yet, nothing worth serious concern, but maybe some very subtle rotation that's at least watching. So somebody asking about the timing graphic on Clarity. If you go to Clarity, there should be a little blue bar. I'll go over there real quick. So on Clarity, there's this little blue bar that you can see that says Nowcast active. If there's a nowcast for your location, you can click on it and you'll be able to see the exact timing. So this is exactly what's going in the Clarity platform right now. If you go to kind of your home location, you click this blue bar on the now screen and you can get the current nowcast. And let's see. Benjamin, I am having one of our team members reach out to you to help you navigate the Clarity app. All right, let me go back. Let's zoom things out here for a second. It looks like a new MD.
Mm-hmm. I'm just reading that over now here.
So most concerned, given the organization, severe wind gusts upwards of 70 to 80 miles per hour in this region. Let's see, some deeper rotating updrafts embedded in the line, isolated discrete cell development, maybe a couple of isolated tornadoes. I still think that better threat's further south. I think the bigger threat here, 1.75-inch diameter hail, and 70 plus mile per hour wind in this red area. That will be kind of the area to monitor in terms of severe wind and hail over the next few hours. Maybe if we can get some discrete cells like what this one is doing, that's where we would at least maybe need to monitor for some kind of a tornado threat. Again, I think the better threat's further down to the south and to the west. We now have 2 tornado warnings down here, by the way.
Yeah, Brett, I'm about ready to do, I think, a little nowcast here for this pair of cells towards Mitchell and Bedford here. I think they probably warrant some, and I think maybe is that a new warning that just got issued for that Bedford cell?
Yep, there it is right there.
And you can tell, you see it, and it's moving more northeast. So what we were talking about, guys, is when you see a cell that splits like that and you have the left or the northern edge of it, that will have a tendency to move a little bit of a different direction than the main line, and that's usually the one that you can see some hail on it. Do they have the tornado possible tag on that as well?
They do.
Okay. Yep.
So this is one to monitor, guys. Bedford, just north of Mitchell, Morristown. Let's see here. Guthrie. In this area, this severe warning, some rotation. These types of storms can produce rotation, can be tornado producers. And so I do think that this is a cell, because it's on its own, needs to be kept an eye on. Large hail, damaging winds, and then it has the tornado detection possible on it, which means that they're keeping an eye on it for rotation. And let's look at that on clarity. We can look to see if there's some rotation. A little bit. There's been a little bit rotation here as the cells move northeast. So yeah, if you're in Bedford, this is one to at least keep an eye on. Definitely need to be keeping an eye on this one. Here's the wide view right now. And then for those of you just tuning in, whoops, that's the old one. Let me go back. Here is our timing graphic with these storms. So should be on the doorstep right now. Let's see how this is verifying. Pretty darn good, I would say. Good work, Kipper. It's on the doorstep of Bloomington right now as of about 6:42. Then we're going to be looking at this 7:10 kind of in western Johnson County, 7:40 for Columbus, 8:10 just southeast of Seymour, and then just west of Madison at about 8:40 p.m. Eastern time. This is the main round of storms at this point.
And Brett, just a note here. I just timed the cell approaching Bedford at about 50 miles per hour. And that's the one that's moving northeast. So,
John, do you want to share your screen and show folks what you were doing in terms of issuing that nowcast?
Absolutely. Give me 1 second here.
I think that would be a good opportunity to give an idea of what we do with these individual storms that we're concerned about potential rotation.
Sure here.
See all the lightning.
Yeah.
Good amount of lightning. Zoom this out. Good amount of lightning with these storms working into Johnson County right now. So here's our office. It's about to hit our office here any minute.
Let's see. I just shared my screen. All right. Can you guys see my screen here?
Yep.
Okay, so again here, these are the 2 cells that we're watching here. The Bedford cell that's moving more to the northeast, and I'll put the alerts on so that makes a little bit more sense here. And then the cell more towards Mitchell, right along that Orange County line. That's the one that's moving. I think a little bit east. It would not surprise me to see a warning extended a little bit more to the east here. But what I'm going to actually do here is in order to create a nowcast, what I will normally do is to just take a quick screenshot of this here. And then as I'm making the graphic here, you can see that we have a lot of different examples over to my left that I will use a lot of times. And I'm going to go ahead and plop this in here. I've gotten questions about this before, guys. The reason why we a lot of times will use programs similar to PowerPoint is because they're just simple, and a lot of our clients really like viewing things that are simple and easy to understand. And from talking with many of you here, I think you guys would appreciate that here too. So all I'm doing essentially is I'm just going to kind of cover both sides of these two cells here, with one moving more to the northeast and one moving more to the east. Essentially draw a few arrows and just emphasize our concerns right now as to where we think these cells are going, and then just a general quick little time of duration that we're watching here. So that's really all that I am working on right now. But these products are invaluable because they communicate the risks in the short term. Sometimes even ahead, and again, there's nothing wrong with the warnings and products that are coming out from the National Weather Service, but sometimes these can provide more of a visual so that you actively know what is coming your way, and what our meteorology team is actively seeing here. Just heard thunder here, Brett.
Yeah, and real quick, there is a new tornado watch and a tornado warning. Okay, we do have a tornado warning. I'll take back over here real quick and we can look at that. That's just south of Bloomington. So we do have a new tornado warning. You can see it here. It's on the notch of one of these storms. Let me pull this up. There we go.
Yeah, that's the one there.
Yep. So a tornado warning. This is kind of where we were talking about a few minutes ago of just needing to monitor things. And so this does not include IU's campus. It looks like it's just south of IU's campus, but just south of Bloomington, it's going to include Lake Monroe, southeast side of Bloomington, kind of Bloomington South area. It does include I-69, kind of the I-69 and the State Road 37 corridor in here. Let me turn on the rotation. I do want to look at the rotation to see if I can kind of pinpoint where this, oh, hey, that is that's certainly some decent rotation in here. And so to kind of highlight exactly where we're most concerned, this is the area right now that if there is a tornado or one that will drop down, it's going to be in this area just east of State Road 37, guys, right now in Bloomington, Indiana. You can kind of see some of these neighborhoods: Clear Creek, Sanders, Smithville, just to the northwest of Lake Monroe, guys. Just east of State Road 37. I'm hearing some very heavy rain here at the office right now as well, here in Greenwood. But just kind of monitoring this rotation, which, it's decent rotation. Where we'd be most concerned about, it would eventually head towards Nashville, Indiana, and into Brown County. So this is kind of the region that we need to take very seriously here. Get in your safe shelter area, guys, in a basement, in an interior closet or bathroom away from windows. We'll kind of eventually work towards State Road 46 here, just southwest of Nashville, between Bloomington and Nashville. This warning goes out for the next 27 minutes. This is a radar indicated rotation signal right now, but I see here, this is a radar on the left, and we have the rotation here on the right. Pretty clear signal here, I would say, of a rotating storm just on the south side of Bloomington, Indiana. And so just south of IU's campus, it's close, but it's just south of IU's campus, it looks like, that we do have this tornado warning, and that you do need to seek shelter again for folks that are in this area. Let me zoom this out, see if we have any other rotation on this line right now. Maybe something to monitor here. Nothing crazy yet, but just north of Unionville, at least something to monitor there. I'm going to turn on, double check to make sure we don't have any debris indications or anything. I would say this is messy. I wouldn't say any clear signals of debris at this point, but definitely rotation being observed just on the south side of Bloomington, just east of I-69 and State Road 37. So any reports in this area as well would certainly be beneficial. I'm seeing pea-sized hail. Let me see here. Pea-sized hail here in Bloomington. Hail in Bloomington. Yep, tornado warning for Bloomington, Indiana. South side of Bloomington. Man, John, this rotation signal is pretty decent here.
Yeah, it's starting to tighten up here a little bit, and that's probably just to the north of the of Lake Monroe for sure. I've seen that track too many times. It's definitely making a beeline here for Nashville. That's for sure, Brett. Definitely, if you were in the path of this storm here, even if we don't have eyes or a confirmed tornado on it yet, as this continues to tighten, it would not surprise me to see at least something briefly drop on the ground here over the next 10 minutes here.
Yeah. So again, guys, main focus right now is this tornado warned storm. Certainly some decent rotation. This is just southeast of downtown Bloomington right now, between downtown Bloomington and Lake Monroe, just southeast of Clear Creek. And again, if it continues on this path, certainly going to include Nashville in this. And this region in here, especially, I would say, very concerned about, given that rotation signal, that this storm could drop a tornado. So if you were in, I would say, downtown Nashville, I would go ahead, and in western Brown County, go ahead and take shelter now. The storm has the capability of producing a tornado. I know that kind of between Bloomington and Nashville, that's a little bit more of a rural, forested area. But I do think that there's the potential, as this approaches Nashville, given the current look, that this could produce a tornado. Certainly where it's at right now in the suburbs of Bloomington, between Bloomington and Lake Monroe, there's quite a few houses and things in that area. And of course, once it approaches Nashville, that's a little bit more of a populated city in western Brown County. And so Nashville to just south of Bloomington, you are in this tornado warning. You need to be taking shelter right now. If you're northwest, I know that there are some folks commenting that the sirens are going off in Ellettsville. The tornado warning is not for Ellettsville. It's not for the north side of Bloomington. It is just in this red polygon area. I'll turn off the dual screen so it's maybe a little bit easier to see. This is the area. If you are in this polygon, you need to take shelter. You can kind of see some of these higher population areas with some of the roads near Broadview and Clear Creek. Now, I do think that the primary rotation is kind of in this area in here. This is where I am most concerned about, and this will work towards Nashville here. If we turn on some timing on this, guys, let's see. This is moving at about 45 miles an hour. And so I will get some timing in terms of this kind of main rotation area. Here we go. Let me turn on our cellular mode real quick, guys. Ooh, John, that's kind of a gnarly looking signal.
Yeah, I'm issuing a nowcast right now, and I'm including the west side of Columbus and then Nineveh. So that's just going to be west of Edinburgh, as I think that sometimes with these storms, it may be able to turn a little bit more to the north here. So yeah, if you're towards the Nashville area, that definitely includes you here.
Yeah, so Nashville, we're looking at this arriving in Nashville right at about 7:08 p.m. So in about 15 minutes, this cell will be working towards downtown Nashville. This storm has some pretty gnarly rotation on it as things stand right now. This is certainly a dangerous situation. I'm keeping an eye on our radar as well. This platform that we're using, it doesn't highlight whether the tornado has been reported. I'm not seeing a reported tornado, at least as of yet. But if we turn back on the rotation, guys, this storm certainly has the potential. Of course, now this radar here is bugging out a little bit. Go back over. Yeah, it's fighting me. I may have to start this over in a second. Let me go over to clarity, see if I can look at some rotation tracks.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And if you need me to, Brett, I can take over the screen for a second here too. I just got those issued.
Yeah, if you want to show them, John, what you're issuing to give kind of a wider view.
Absolutely. Here, let me go ahead and get that transferred over here. Yeah. So again, and let me start again by overlaying the warnings that we're currently looking at here. And this looks like a new severe thunderstorm warning as well, extended to include French lick here. It would not surprise me again for this Mitchell cell, which to put that into perspective here. Oops, sorry, I just jumped that around here. Trying to find a way to, let's see. Give me 1 second here. Let me push this here. Okay, let me share my screen again. So if you guys
Still hard to tell whether there's any debris. The radar is kind of messy, but the signal to me still, guys, it is concerning in terms of the way that this is wrapping around right along State Road 446 in southeastern Monroe County. It's kind of right over Monroe Lake right now, or Lake Monroe. I can't believe that I said that, John. Lake Monroe.
Yeah.
You know, something to keep in mind that the lake's not going to do anything to disrupt the storm.
Can you
Uh,
guys see my screen at all right now? Sorry to interrupt, Brad.
I can't. No, let me share it for you.
Okay.
There you
Oh,
go.
there we go. Okay. Yeah, I was just going off of this here real quick. This is very basic. I'll show you guys the text here in the map, just emphasizing where that increasing tornado risk is. Very simple. I want people to look at this, see the arrows, know that they're in that pink zone, and immediately start seeking shelter. So a little bit more expansive of that tornado warning, and that's where we talk about in the text here as well, the tightening rotation that's been noted, the general timing as to when the potential is going to increase, and just reminding people to seek shelter there as well. So those are just a quick example of one of the graphics here that we're looking at here too. And again, Brett, yeah, I'm still keeping an eye on this cell towards Mitchell. You know, I think if there can be another cell that can do it here real quick, it would be this one right here, which we have another little graphic on. This is the one I was showing you guys that I was making here, just in general, where that tornado risk is going to start to evolve more from the west to the east here. And as we see that mature a little bit more, I'm probably going to start getting more specific on the timing, the exact timing, as I see that rotation begin to increase here.
Yeah, I'm seeing some rotation right over Mitchell right now.
Yeah.
Looking at the velocity scans, it's not notable yet, but it won't take much more strengthening to produce enough rotation to prompt a warning on the cell in Mitchell. And so it's south of Bedford. You can see right there,
Yeah.
the rotation on that. I would not be shocked. And in fact, personally, I think that if you're in that area, just given the nature of the evolution of that cell, just to be safe, if you're in Mitchell and just east of Mitchell, it might be worth going ahead and taking shelter, getting in the basement, getting in an interior room. I just, my gut tells me, John, that cell could go tornado warned.
Yeah, I agree. And just based on looking over here on velocity and this image, for reference, guys, the area of strongest rotation is going right over the interchange between 60 and 37 right now as it's pushing to the east. So, you know, for those of you here, again, it's the southeastern edge of the county here, and I would say, you know, largely it's more southern Lawrence, northeastern Orange. You know, if you guys recognize the county names a little bit better, that's where we need to watch for this. And also, we're getting pretty good on clarity rotation signals still with this ongoing tornado warned storm here as well. That's continuing to work more towards Brown County here, and I would say, you know, again, this is a situation where we're not just dealing with the potential for a brief tornado. Yeah, there we go, Brett. That's hooking unfortunately very nicely here.
Yeah, I would not be shocked at all if there's a tornado on the ground in this area. Again, I don't have anything confirmed. I think number one, this warning needs to come a little bit further south based off of where this is. But this is a strong hook, a strong signal for rotation just south of Belmont, just northwest of Elkinsville, now moving into western Brown County. And so, you know, these areas, if you're in the circled area, get in your shelter right now. This is a dangerous storm. Right now, the current track maybe would be just south of Nashville. Interesting, this little cell too that's developing kind of out ahead of this, right in Nashville right now. But this is a strong rotation signal. This is a nasty storm that's developing in southwestern parts of Brown County right now. I would say that Bloomington, you're out of the threat as of now. The rotation is well east of Bloomington. In fact, it's east of Monroe County. I think Monroe County, you're in the clear. Brown County, Nashville, and just south to the south of Nashville, there's a latest scan. It's just north of Elkinsville. Certainly, you need to be in shelter right now. I think one potential saving grace, John, with this could be that this new development here that could kind of cut off some of the rotation and some of the inflow of this storm.
Yeah, I agree, Brett. And sorry there. I'm actually going.
No, you're good.
I'm going to issue a tornado warning to include that southeastern portion of Monroe and then Elkinsville and Story, just so that the south of Brown County State Park, just as a very narrow area, just to give people a little bit more of a heads up. I might even expand it a little bit further east than that here as I continue to watch this develop.
Yeah. So this area, I would say right now, circle. Probably. Nashville's really close, but in terms of where the rotation is, I'll go back to the single zoom here real quick. I'm going to go back to velocity. So here's your rotation just north of Elkinsville. So I'd say highest threat area. I think that this needs to be expanded south. Pikes Peak. That's kind of where this will be moving. This may be a little bit too big, but this gives you an idea of the area to be looking out for over the next 20 minutes or so, I would say. I'm going to go back down real quick. Mitchell, not seeing any new strengthening of rotation in here, so that's good signs. Worth watching this little guy near Bean Blossom.
Yeah, that's where I was going to look here just next to see if it's just because of where the radar's at or if it's starting to get a little bit more.
Might be starting to rotate a little bit.
Yeah, just broadly, but it's there.
Some broad rotation in here, so worth keeping an eye on as this moves northeast. Nothing yet, but maybe a little something here. This warning has not been expanded into Johnson County. We're seeing some weakening here, I would say, kind of on the northern edge of the storm. Here's a look at all the hail reports out to the west with these storms. 1.7 inch, 1.75 inch diameter hail near Linton. All the 1 inch hail reports in Terre Haute, an inch hail report in Greencastle. We've got new warnings down here as well with these storms developing southwest of Jasper for quarter-sized hail and 16-mile-per-hour wind gusts. Paoli's now under severe thunderstorm warning for 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts and a quarter-sized hail. And also keeping an eye on these storms here that's moving through Brown County. Very quickly through Brown County. We'll be in Bartholomew County, southern Johnson County here very shortly. Greenwood, you're okay right now. You're just dealing with some thunderstorms.
Yeah.
Wouldn't be shocked if there's some large hail in this area and here in Morgantown. So if you have any reports, this is working towards Trafalgar. We'll be working towards the southern portion of Franklin and Nineveh here shortly. Haven't seen this warning, tornado warning, be expanded. Yeah, the rotation down here is starting to look a little bit messier. Yeah. And I think it's just as we've started to get more of these storms to develop, it's cutting off the circulation a little bit. I don't know if they will expand this tornado warning at this point.
Yeah, which is good news for sure. I definitely, still need to keep an eye on that cell. If they don't put another warning out there, they'll definitely time to extend the severe thunderstorm warning a little bit more here.
Yeah, not concerned about a tornado in Franklin. Just going through some of the comments here.
New severe thunderstorm warning for Bartholomew, Brown, Johnson, Monroe, Morgan, and Shelby until 7:30. So that's probably about to pop up here. That includes, Franklin, Indiana, Edinburgh, Taylorsville, Columbus, Jonesville, Seymour, Brownstown, Nineveh, just to the south of Bargersville, and that's until 7:30 p.m. Eastern time frame here. It might take a second for it to pop up. It did just pop up here on Clarity, Brett.
Yep. By the way, it's so there it is.
There it is,
Clarity's about 30 to 60 seconds faster than these other platforms.
Yeah. Yes.
The only reason that we're showing this radar is because it has the velocity. So when there's tornadoes, it's good to use in terms of really highlighting the tornado threat. But here's the new warning. You can see it blinking. This is for a quarter-sized hail. It includes Franklin. It includes Columbus. It includes Seymour. This goes for the next 25 minutes. These storms are moving very quickly now, 50 mile per hour. And so I will put some timing on this to kind of go city by city. But this area in here, let me turn on the timing. We'll do that. There we go, 50 miles an hour. Put this over here. All right, so we've got, let's see, Freetown 720, Columbus 722, Taylorsville 724. It's already in Franklin. Jonesville 725, Edinburgh 726, E-Town 728, Brownstown at 729, Seymour 730, Mount Pleasant 731, Franklin, it's already in Franklin, but the southeast side of Franklin's at 735, Shelbyville 746, Beachbrook at 7:46 p.m. So that gives you an idea of the timing of these storms as they push to the east. And still some notches on this, John, I'm noticing. Still some notches that I think at least need to be, monitored.
Yeah, I mean, we still have this area of broad rotation to the southeast of Nashville that is starting to get a little bit further into an area that's seen plenty. Bartholomew County over the past couple weeks, so we'll need to watch that. Thankfully, the rotation looks weaker, and I'm still watching this cell exiting now east of Mitchell too. So it's definitely still got some embedded rotation that we need to keep an eye on here.
Yeah, there's a little rotation here right over Pikes Peak. So no tornado warning on this right now. It's not super strong, but if there's an area to monitor, it's over Pikes Peak. And that would be moving, once again, unfortunately, as you alluded to, John, right towards Columbus, right in the area that just got hit with the tornado. So again, I don't think we're quite to that point yet, but there is some rotation. Guys, somebody just saying, I guess Indy doesn't matter. I'm not talking about areas right now that aren't being impacted by strong rotation or damaging winds or tornadoes. So if I'm not talking about your area, it's just because I'm not super concerned about it right now. I want to focus on the areas that are more at risk for threatening property and life, if you will. Downtown Indy, you're not in any kind of a warning. You're not in any kind of a threat right now. This is the area, this large severe thunderstorm warning from Franklin to Columbus to Seymour, that we're under the severe thunderstorm warning. And again, the area that I'm kind of honing in on is right in here where there's a little bit of rotation. And again, that's working towards Columbus and Bartholomew County, which is an area that just got hit so hard a couple of weeks ago. And there it is. There's the tornado warning. So guys, Columbus again, really the entire northern 2/3 of Bartholomew County and out towards Hope, that is now under a tornado warning. You need to be in shelter right now. So along the I-65 corridor, it's going to include believe it's going to include Edinburgh, just south of Edinburgh here. Actually, there's now two spots I'm concerned about here, John. I'm seeing maybe another area of rotation. So there's a couple of spots, which is probably why they issued such a big tornado warning. But there's a couple of spots in here across much of eastern Brown County and Bartholomew County, guys, that are under this tornado warning, and certainly concerning here, given just as you mentioned the recent history with tornado warnings. This also includes parts of far southeastern Shelby County. It's also going to include far western portions of Decatur County here in Indiana, just east of Hope. And so much of Bartholomew County, southern Shelby County, and then western Decatur County under these tornado warnings right now.
Yeah, and I'm definitely seeing that here too as well, Brad. And there's still, even though velocity isn't particularly impressive right now, there's still going to be some severe wind gusts and hail embedded along this line as well. So we're not just necessarily talking about tornadoes, but of course that's the immediate concern. And even though I've been seeing comments throughout the day, especially ahead of this line, that it's sunny out and we can see the clouds. These types of tornadoes that can briefly touch down as well sometimes can be rain wrapped. So don't plan on being able to see it. Heed the warnings. Be prepared that the circulations can be embedded at right of the front part of the storm. So don't rely on your eyes to necessarily see it here, especially as it starts approaching that I-65 corridor here.
Yeah, there's a couple of spots
Yeah.
that could drop a tornado in this line. So anywhere kind of along the I-65 corridor here, heading right towards Columbus, take shelter right away. There's the potential that this line could produce a tornado, if not multiple tornadoes, as this moves east over the next 20 minutes. This is moving quickly. The next area will be Greensburg. You know, if this is expanded, kind of in this area in here, would be kind of the next area to be keeping an eye on. So from Columbus to Hope to eventually Greensburg, this is an area that, man, has just gotten hit hard recently. I feel like I'm feeling a little deja vu to what we dealt with a couple of weeks ago with a very similar scenario. Also, just real quick while we have a second, I did want to make the note down here. Now we're getting all kinds of warnings across southeast Missouri and eventually into western Kentucky. We now have a tornado warning east of Poplar Bluff, south of Poplar Bluff, a tornado warning that is just northwest of Paducah, Kentucky. And so if I turn on the actual radar here, guys, it's messy because we have so many warnings. Continue to be concerned as this line moves east of this region in here. And so kind of Vincennes, well, probably south of Vincennes, but Jasper, Evansville, Owensboro, Madisonville, Paducah, Hopkinsville, Kentucky, Murray, Kentucky, this area at play for some very large hail, a couple of tornadoes, I think probably likely in this region as these storms move east over the next couple of hours. So if you have friends and family in this area, if you're in this area, this will probably be the biggest hot spot over the next couple of hours in terms of tornadoes and very, very large hail. Interesting signal here, John. Kind of starting to see a little bit of a hook here.
For sure. Yeah, and I was going to toggle, see if spectrum width has anything here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice little rotation right here. So very similar to where that tornado went through, 10 days ago, 10, 11 days ago?
Yes, for sure. And I would strongly suggest here as well that any part of this, any part really of this tornado warning right now where you can see just the line where you're starting to see more of those, put it basically the greens and reds touching here, those are areas that we're watching for embedded rotation. So that alone concerns me that it might, even if it ends up, well, that's good thunder there. Even if it ends up wrapping around a little bit more toward just to the west of Columbus, there can still be other notches that can form here, Brett. So I think that just anywhere in that tornado warned storm needs to be seeking shelter at this point as this quickly rolls through here from the southwest to the northeast. Yeah, right there, and then lined up along the edge. That's where it doesn't take long in these situations, guys, for a couple of tornadoes along the edge to form. So again, don't trust your eyes and looking for it here. Just trust the tornado warning and seek shelter.
Yep, for sure. So yeah, anywhere within this red polygon here, I'll highlight it in pink so you can see it maybe even a little bit better. Anywhere in here needs to be taking shelter. I'll even expand it out towards Greensburg. Just because of how the line is looking. Anywhere in this area, you need to be taking shelter right now. Elsewhere in this yellow area, this yellow polygon, that is going to be for damaging winds of 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts and 1-inch diameter hail. And so these are the main areas in central Indiana that we're watching right now. Further to the south and to the west, all of these are for large hail and damaging winds, guys. Some of these just southwest of Jasper here, north of Boonville, for 1.5-inch diameter ping pong ball sized hail, but not seeing any strong rotation signals down there right now. We do have a confirmed tornado. I did want to note that because it is moving towards Paducah, just kind of north and west of Paducah, Kentucky. We do have a confirmed tornado here just north of Mound City, Illinois, I believe. And that will be working towards kind of far northwestern Kentucky over the next 30 minutes. And so we have numerous tornado warnings in this part of the storm, kind of in the area that we've been targeting throughout the system. Look at all the large hail reports out here, too. All of these 1 to 2-inch diameter hail reports all along this line here that also is capable of producing a couple of tornadoes as it pushes further to the east.
Brett, I'm still watching this. I'm going to be the same tune I've been saying for a bit here, but now towards Brownstown area here, there's still some. It definitely looks like more of a large hail type storm, but there is definitely still just a little bit of rotation that we need to keep an eye on here along the southern edge. It would, again, that would be a situation where if you're in Brownstown, it would not take long for something to spin up very quickly here, and also Seymour too, just on the eastern edge of that. So while you are not under a tornado warning currently, I would highly advise you to be vigilant of this storm and seek shelter anyway, due to the risks of not only large hail and damaging winds, but also of just some rotation that we've been watching since this storm first started developing here just to the west of Mitchell.
So Amanda's sending some messages here. Yeah, Michael's seeing the same thing that you're seeing in what is it, Medora? So he just sent that a couple of minutes ago. So yeah, in this area, Medora, Brownstown, kind of in this region in here that we have highlighted, this one potentially needs a warning on it, a tornado warning. So I would go ahead and just say, just to be proactive, this area in here, especially the southern part of this storm, Medora, Brownstown, Seymour, this is an area that probably needs to have a tornado warning on it, very large hail, and the potential for some kind of rotation with this storm, as you were alluding to. And also, just real quick, I'm going to pull up this report. This is and if I'm saying this wrong, I apologize, but it's Albion, Indiana. If I'm saying that wrong,
You're good. Yep, I'll be in Indiana. You got it.
But this is Noble County Highway Department. I'm going to share my screen here. Look at the damage reports in this area. Whew. Look at that. That's the Noble County Highway Department building there. And then look at the tree damage in that same area. And so, yeah, just goes to show that these storms have certainly meant business. I'll look over here, refresh this power outages map, see if we have anything new here. Yeah, so we've got 2,000 people without power in Greene County. We've got over 111,000 people in Indiana without power right now. And I can actually go back and we can look at the map as a whole. We've got over 300,000 people without power in Michigan as well. And so this storm has produced some pretty widespread power outages in not just Indiana, but also up here in parts of the Great Lakes region as well.
Yeah, and I just spoke with Alyssa here as well, back on that other cell here, Brett, and we are actually about to issue a tornado warning for that Medora, Brownstown, Seymour cell right now, just given the way it's looking on radar here. So yeah. guys, when we're talking internally here about issuing tornado warnings, one of the unique features of Clarity is that our clients that are in the path of these storms, we get to issue our own special alerts as well. If we see something that maybe the National Weather Service isn't seeing yet, or there sometimes could be just some general disagreement, that's where we have the ability to send out alerts to keep everyone safe. So definitely something that, again, if you're looking for a platform that will help you and your family stay safe, that will help your business or operation be weather aware at all times, this is one of the added benefits here of doing this, and it also helps highlights the concern for the situation as well as we're watching. So yeah, that area that Brett has marked in pink, that's definitely the zone here that we for sure need to keep an eye on, especially as we get through 740, 745, I would say.
Yeah, and to kind of continue that discussion here, you know, you've got winds moving kind of towards the radar and away from the radar. There's your rotation. It's heading right towards Brownstown. Oh wow. Okay, so we've got a new tornado warning. I just saw it come in.
Yeah.
And that is going to include. I just got the warning. Let's see here. I haven't seen it populate yet.
There was a severe thunderstorm warning that just got issued for here.
Okay, maybe that's what it was. I swear I saw it say
Indianapolis, Lawrence, Greenfield until 7:45.
Oh, okay. I got the
there.
BAM. I got the BAM tornado
Oh,
warning.
yeah, that's
what I got.
Yes.
I was gonna say, okay, so BAM tornado warning for this storm. I was like, where is that tornado warning? It's because it was one we issued. This area in here. So this area in here, roughly, needs to be on the lookout with this rotation. And so, you know, Seymour, eventually North Vernon, guys, and Brownstown. This is this storm has the capability of producing a tornado. I'm not sure why they have not issued a tornado warning with this storm. I do want to go back up to Columbus for a second. Number one, we've got some really, really strong winds with this. Power's flickering here. Did I just lose John? Thank you. Oh, John's bringing me water because my starting to lose my voice a little bit. But the power just flickered here. A little power surge or something here in Greenwood. Still getting some flickering. Regardless, guys, we have some really strong winds moving through Columbus right now. And still the potential here, I'd be looking right in here. This little notch just southeast of Columbus. If there is any kind of a tornado kind of right in here would be the area. But this entire line, there's a little notch up here too. So we've got multiple spots in this line up near Clifford that you know could drop a quick tornado. That's a little concerning, John. Let me turn on the reflectivity. There's some lower. John, tell me if you know. Maybe feedback, but there's some lower correlation coefficient values here.
Yeah, I'm wondering, Brett, in all honesty, if you see those darker colors north of Columbus, I'm wondering if the radar is starting to pick up on it's being scattered by the hail that's up there as well. So I don't know if I would necessarily say that's debris. To me, that's more of a hail interfering, but either way, definitely something to monitor here.
Yeah, we'll be on the lookout for reports in this area. So this is what John is talking about. Sometimes when you get very large hail in this area in here, the radar, it almost looks like what we call a scatter spike, where the radar starts to reflect the hail, and you actually get this interference that tries to show debris when in reality it's probably just seeing hail. So let's see here. Power is out in Columbus, hailing in Columbus, so that could certainly be, regardless, a very, very strong storm here that's moving through the Columbus area. New tornado warning, it looks like. New tornado warning, or did they just no, I think they just cut it off.
I think they just
cut off the western edge of it. So still a tornado warning that's just east of Columbus at this point. It includes Hope. It includes areas in far western Decatur County and far southern and southeastern Shelby County. Yeah, you can see there, John, it kind of dissipated. So
Yeah.
probably not debris, probably hail that the radar was seeing there.
Yeah, that's it's definitely something to continue to keep an eye on here. And I'm still looking at, if there's right between Columbus and Elizabethtown right now, I would say just towards where locally here for you guys, State Road 46 and State Road 7 intersect. That's where the area of greatest rotation or potential at this time, I think, is starting to move more towards the east, northeast here. I did just see a report of out of this cell, though, towards Taylorsville and Edinburgh. So along the line, a report of 60 miles per hour here by a storm spotter. So definitely still cranking out some damaging winds here for sure.
Yeah, you can see some clearing behind this line, and you can also see some bowing here, which is typically a pretty good indication of large hail, or excuse me, strong winds. Strong winds, there probably is large hail as well. I was just looking over here with this cell near Brownstown of an 1.5 to 2 inch diameter hail. But typically when you get this clearing that you see near Bloomington and you get this bowing, it's a pretty strong indication of damaging winds. And so I would certainly still expect this line as it moves through with this severe thunderstorm warning will be capable of producing 60 locally 70 mile per hour wind gusts as this pushes east. This is a pretty strong signal, I would say. We do have severe thunderstorm warnings further down to the south as well.
Yeah, Tyler was just talking with me about these a little bit, Brett, as well. I would say one of the cells we were watching, Jasper, Huntingburg, just to the west there, towards Linville, and then we've got another cell all the way to the east, just towards English and Milltown. Those three cells right there, they're discrete enough to where if they can start to get a little bit more organized and rotate a little bit more, in addition to hail and winds, those would be the next ones that I think, if you've been waiting, if you're in far southern Indiana, northern Kentucky, the time is now. So that this is where we really start to watch for these cells that are either embedded along the line or that are forming just out ahead to start rotating a little bit more. And as that is a decent environment. That's more in that pink circle that Brett, I think you drew earlier, and where we have that earlier MD from the Storm Prediction Center as well.
Mm-hmm. Yep, for sure. Going through kind of some of the comments here and looking at some of the reports to see if we have any insight here. We'll zoom out too. So, if you're west of this line at this point, you're probably okay. We do have a severe thunderstorm warning for downtown Indy. That's actually behind the main line of storms, and I think that just goes to show how strong the winds are, kind of on the backside of this. So, but again, guys, if you're west of this line, the main line has passed you at this point. The main areas that we're kind of concerned about for Indiana will be through here, I would say. Kind of in this
for
area.
Sure. Yeah.
So, you're not out of the woods if you're in this area in here. But if you're west of there, you're probably okay at this point. Bloomington, Greencastle, probably even west of Franklin and Greenwood and Johnson County, Morgan County, the rest of Indianapolis, Noblesville, Fishers, Greencastle, all of these areas, Lebanon, you're probably okay at this point.
Brett, it's hard to say. It looks like it's more towards the back of it. But there's a little bit of a feature on velocity just west of Elizabethtown now. That might be more of a downburst type thing now that I look at that a little bit more. But
yeah, I'm just kind of looking around here. Still some decent wind signals southeast of Shelbyville. Still a rotation signal in eastern Bartholomew County, I would say.
Mhm.
So I would not be shocked if this tornado warning is extended towards Greensburg. So something to keep in mind there. They did just extend the severe thunderstorm warning to include Connorsville and Batesville for 60-mile-per-hour winds and 1-inch diameter hail. And of course, all of these warnings down towards North Vernon as well. How are we looking with this cell near Brownstown here? Maybe
It's
weakening a little.
looks like a little bit here.
Yeah, guys, be sure to like, share, follow us. Price of the live stream today, if you will, while I have a second to think about it. Be sure to give us a follow so you can be sure to be notified if you don't follow us. There's the new warning to stay ahead of these things, like what we were talking about there with that warning. So Greensburg, guys, now under the tornado warning. So a tornado warning that moves all the way across the I-74 corridor here, New Point, Greensburg, Westport. You can see right here where some of this rotation may be. So if you are in these areas, again, across Decatur County, be taking shelter right now. You need to be in a basement or in an interior room, away from windows, a closet, a bathroom, ideally. If you don't have a room that doesn't have windows, get in the tub. It's probably the safest place to be if you have one there. If you don't have an interior room.
Yeah, this is one of the areas we were talking about with our nowcast here. I would say, just given how this looks, it almost looks like, Brett, that if it's paralleling. Let me zoom in here, see if I can get the exact road. State Road 46 right now, as it's pushing from southwest to northeast. I would say right now, if there's the areas where the strongest rotation is, it's 46 moving from southwest to northeast. So again, regardless, guys, if you're in that tornado warning, seek shelter for sure. But definitely, at least what we're seeing, and now at least on velocity and reflectivity, Brett, I'm starting to see a little bit more of a hook here.
Yeah.
Kind of just maybe half a mile to the south of where I just mentioned here along 46. So definitely something to keep an eye on here. This is looking a little bit more impressive than it did about 5 or 10 minutes ago.
Yeah, I would say pretty notable rotation. And this is pretty common, guys, with these types of lines, for the rotation to intensify, for it to weaken, and then it comes back. Typically in these types of setups, you get maybe a tornado that drops down for a little bit of time, maybe it lifts up and then it drops down again. It's very common for these types of setups to kind of cycle. And it's why we need to really stay diligent with this line as well. Even if the rotation kind of weakens a little bit, it's very easy for these storms to spin up additional tornadoes. And this is maybe one of the better signals, I would say, so far in terms of this rotation signal. This will be right at, as you mentioned, just east of State Road 46, working towards Waynesburg. And then probably the State Road 3 here. So this area especially here, would not be shocked to see some kind of a tornado. Here's your strongest rotation over the next 10 or 15 minutes or so. I'm going to double check correlation to make sure that we aren't getting debris. I don't... It's maybe a little more interesting, John. Let me turn on the radar so we can kind of compare.
Yeah, I'm looking at it. I'm looking at it here too. It's
Radar Omega is struggling tonight, but this is kind of right where the rotation was. I don't know. It's messy.
Yeah.
Something at least to keep an eye on here. Regardless, it doesn't matter. You need to be in shelter. Still seeing the hail signal as well with this storm. It just weakened on this latest scan. Yeah, because here's your hook. Your hook is right here, heading right towards Waynesburg. So, guys, the tornado warning at this point is out of Columbus. So you're still under a severe thunderstorm warning for damaging wind gusts of 60 miles per hour, but the tornado warning has passed for Columbus and most of Bartholomew County at this point, aside from far eastern Bartholomew County, where this hook is right now, near Burnsville and Waynesburg. So if you're kind of west of this area in Bartholomew County, you're okay at this point. Columbus, downtown Columbus, you're okay. Edinburgh, you're okay. The main threat is kind of working into Decatur County right now. This storm down to the south, guys, looking at velocity, maybe still a little something here in Seymour. Very subtle.
Yep, very subtle. It's still, I would definitely say it's a lot weaker here. I've actually been using a little bit more of the Louisville radar here, Brett, to try to scan the southeast side of it. But there's not a.
Turn on the velocity here. Yeah, not super impressive right now in terms of rotation with that storm near Seymour, which is good. New severe thunderstorm warning east of Jennings County now for sales. Go back to the Indy radar. Gnarly wind here.
Sure.
With this line. I wouldn't be shocked if it's over 60 miles an hour at this point. But certainly still a decent rotation signal here in kind of on the border of Bartholomew County and Decatur County, I would say.
And so far, at least, if there's some good news here north of this, as we get more towards St. Paul, Rushville, Newcastle, kind of the leading edge up there, I'm not seeing any concerns of rotation at this time. I would say it's just wind. Mm-hmm. Storm front is looking a little less aggressive, which is good news. So,
yeah, this region, winds 60 to 70 based off of the radar scans. So main concern at this point, guys, in Indiana is this cell right here. We're going to keep monitoring this cell, and we'll be keeping an eye on these storms to the southwest later for far southern Indiana, Evansville to Louisville. You can see there's a couple of tornado warnings right now. Actually, 4 tornado warnings. Well, yeah, I lied. 5 tornado warnings. Jonesboro, Arkansas. Let's see here. Just east of Pocahontas, Arkansas. Malden in Missouri. Sikeston. And then again, looks like they just expired this one near Paducah. But this, if you were with us earlier, this was the area that the data was the most intense with the risk for tornadoes.
You can just tell, Brett, just by a quick velocity radar comparison here, the difference in the rotation. But it's much more defined, very easy to pick out in these tornado warned storms where the concerns are as they're more discrete. So I believe, and I might be wrong here, but that cell, the one closest to Kentucky, the Matthews one, that was the one that was actually producing an observed tornado earlier, or was that the one further southwest? I can't remember.
I think it was this one, John.
Yeah.
Because it was near Poplar Bluff.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it might have been this one. I don't know, but these storms are also kind of stacked. So
right, and the reason I wanted to emphasize that is for those of you that were listening earlier when Brett was talking about these types of storms cycling here too. This is a perfect example of it because you're starting to see that rotation build back in again. Unfortunately, that storm looks like it, unless the rotation weakens a little bit more, it wouldn't surprise me in 15 or 20 minutes it intensifies again and starts putting a tornado in play closer to the Mississippi River. So that seems to be the theme a lot of times in these setups.
Yeah. This area, still needs to be very much on high alert, I would say, as we go over the next couple of hours. Evansville, Louisville, I would say maybe not quite as much. If I had to, even narrow this down even a little bit more in terms of the highest risk, kind of through here, based off what we're seeing now. But still, some risk through here too. Northern Kentucky, southwestern Indiana, south central Indiana. All right, let me go back over to our friends in Greensburg and Decatur County. This is now rotation-wise. It looks like it's exiting Bartholomew County. Columbus, you are good at this point. Hope, you are good. Nineveh, you are good. Edinburgh, you are good. And I don't really see strong rotation in Seymour at this point. Maybe a little bit heading towards North Vernon. Not super strong, but something to be on the lookout for, maybe, John? I don't know. It's not super strong.
Yeah, it's it's that same cell we've been watching here for. It hasn't done much. However, I did just get something that popped up on my screen from Seymour here. Measured gust of 55 miles per hour. So either way, that particular cell, that was close to downtown Seymour. That even still, that at least is still producing some stronger to probably severe gusts. If we're at 55, that's technically just under the severe limits, but in my opinion, it's probably still fair game, 55, 60 at this point. So
yep, for sure. John, I'm going to let you take control for 1 second. I need to plug my computer in. I left my charger out there.
Of course. Let me go
So
ahead.
I'm gonna give you the reins for a moment.
Sounds good. Let me share my screen here. So still looking at this, to zoom in a little bit more here on this tornado warn storm. I am encouraged by the signs here in terms of I'm not seeing as much of a rotation. Obviously, you can still see here a little bit of a hook as that's pushing more to the northeast here towards 421 and now closer to 74. So for those of you in the tornado warning, continue to stay in shelter here. Is very similar to what happened 30 minutes ago. It started to weaken again and then it tightened. So that's where we need to watch for some of the cycling here. I'll put the rotation tracks on here for a second. And again, you can kind of see the progression of this over the past 30 minutes here as we've been tracking this cell. It wouldn't surprise me to see this update a little bit more as we get towards the Westport area here as well. Again, we continue to watch this other cell here that we've been talking about, Brownstown, Seymour. I'll put that on radar here. It's under severe thunderstorm warning. Still a little bit of rotation here. So if you're in Hayden towards North Vernon, keep an eye on this cell. It is producing strong to severe wind gusts based on observation reports. So definitely still going to be some concerns here for some strong to severe weather here. For those of you that are north here, I'm still seeing a very impressive storm line here from Rushville to Connorsville. Definitely some potential for some hail and some 60 to 65 mile per hour wind gusts here. I would say for those of you that are north, and just to review here, looking at comments here, those of you that are behind the line, so Columbus, Edinburgh, Greenwood, Indianapolis, Fishers, Noblesville, Greenfield, Morristown, Pendleton. I'm not gonna be able to name all of the cities here, but you guys are out of the woods. So we're just right now at this point dealing with some heavy thunder showers that are working through the area. A few gusts can still get above 30 miles per hour at times, but again, it's for those of you that are out ahead of this line that we are keeping a closer eye on here. I do want to go ahead and spend some time talking about these cells again here as well, more for Jasper, French Lick here, as this activity continues to push more towards the east here. So Salem, Louisville. But one of the things that I'm noticing with these cells here, and I'll put the rotation tracks on, is I'm not seeing as much rotation associated with them. In fact, I would say the bigger risk that I'm seeing right now, especially that cell towards Jasper, is dealing with some quarter-sized to golf ball-sized hail. So for the southern area of Indiana, these cells are more discrete. They're producing more hail. I still think, guys, as this pushes closer to around the I-65 corridor here, that we need to continue to watch for anything discrete that develops out ahead that can rotate a little bit more here. So again, for those of you in far southern Indiana, the tornado risk is still present, even though there has not been a lot of warnings issued thus far down there, in addition to large hail and definitely some damaging wind gusts here. I'm going to zoom out here on my end and see if we got anything else going on. We're still looking, I would say, I'm going to zoom back in here, still looking at a little bit more of a hook feature, if you will, just between Alert and Westport here. So that's still in that tornado warned storm that's approaching 421 and the Greensburg area here. Continue to stay in shelter for that here as well. I'm gonna zoom out here and see if we've got anything else going on here. look through some of these comments. Yes, if you're in Greenwood, go to sleep. Enjoy the rain here. Still can hear some thunder, but there's no, in our opinion, there's no additional severe risks right now. Bedford, that's a good question. I would say right now here that let me actually animate this here so you guys can see the general movement here. The reason why, if you're in Bedford, Washington, Bloomington, kind of the southern edge here, we need to at least keep an eye on this activity that's pushing into southwestern Indiana. It's moving a little bit more to the northeast, so I don't want to guarantee severe weather, but I do think that there's definitely going to be another round of storms that's going to be more likely possible down in these zones here versus the greater Indianapolis area. So again, it's more of these, and I'll stop this here. It's this activity here down by Mount Carmel, just to the west of Evansville, that's moving a little bit more to the northeast at this time. So there may be, I think for a lot of you here in southern Indiana, another round of storms, Brett, unless you disagree, that we have to contend with here, at least these southern 2 rows of counties here as this activity continues to push in.
Yeah, I think that as we've talked about, it's Southwest Indiana, kind of along the I-64 corridor there, across Southern Indiana from Evansville to Louisville, that I think is the area really worth monitoring. Excuse me, over the next couple of hours. I do want to at least real quick, John. I've seen a couple of separate hooks in that storm in Decatur County near Greensburg that I think we need to continue to keep an eye on. But outside of that, I don't see any strong rotation signals in the state right now. That's really the main one. And I think that one is producing that is because the rear inflow jet is just to the west of that.
Yes.
And so you can kind of see where there's a clearing west of Columbus. That's where the very strong jet is moving into the storm. And it really, really pushes these strong winds out. It can cause them to circulate and to rotate. And I don't think it's a coincidence that just east of where that rear inflow jet is, that's producing some of the stronger wind gusts in this storm, that's where the rotation is. It's not super strong. We're not looking at a supercell or a strong tornado, but just east of that jet, that's where the spin up threat will kind of continue. And let me, I'll show you that here real quick too. So here's a look at this. So some of the strongest winds right now are in Decatur County, really. This area is where I would not be shocked if there were 60 to 70 mile per hour winds with this. And then in terms of the rotation, here's where that hook is right now. Even perhaps on the southern edge of the tornado warning and eventually heading towards Interstate 74 in Batesville is where maybe that rotation is. It looks like a new severe thunderstorm warning. Yeah, new severe thunderstorm warning for 60-mile-an-hour wind gusts, and that's related to that rear inflow jet that we were talking about. We have very, very strong winds kind of moving across this region in here on the back edge of these storms. Pretty widespread 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts, I would imagine. This is a massive severe thunderstorm warning with this line. 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts. I would not be shocked if there are some greater damage, maybe even 70-mile-per-hour wind gusts in Greensburg, kind of at the core of that jet.
Yeah, I definitely agree, and it was great when you showed that a little bit earlier on Clarity, because you can almost see the hole on radar. That's a great way to just even to the basic eye. That's a great way to show that here for sure. This line, as it continues to push eastward here. For those of you that are even on the outskirts of what's going to be this new warning here towards the Ohio-Indiana border, I still think this storm maintains intensity easily as it gets towards Cincinnati, even as it gets towards Dayton. I don't think that necessarily, things are going to shut off completely. They have had plenty of sunshine today, Brett, that would keep this instability present and keep most of the ingredients there. So even though we only have a severe thunderstorm warning, active more for this line towards Batesville, Connorsville here, I definitely think that additional warnings are going to be needed here as the damaging wind gust continues to extend more to the east.
Sure. Yeah, just saw a new severe thunderstorm warning pop up to include Salem with these cells down here. Again, kind of your typical quarter-sized hail, 60-mile-per-hour winds. Main concern right now continues to be up here. This is where the rotation is. Once this, let me go back to the
We got a new
area.
tornado warning, Brett. They just
New tornado warning. There we go. Yep. So a pretty big tornado warning, which tells me that anywhere still along this line with this rare inflow jet, guys, potential in here for some spin ups as these storms move kind of to the east through here. And so this particular spot, I'm going to highlight an area. By the way, 70-mile-per-hour winds with this as well, so that's a considerable wind threat too. This is where I would be most concerned about. If I had to narrow down an area, just looking at rotation right in here. So working towards Napoleon and eventually towards, gosh, how do you say that? Lafferyville? I've never heard of that name before. That's fun. Lafferyville.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm going to attempt that one, but here, Brett.
It's probably wrong, but it wouldn't be the first time that I've said a city name wrong on a live stream. So somebody will correct me if it's wrong. Okay, guys, let's see here. Let's zoom out. So yeah, this again, the main concern, kind of east of Greensville towards Batesville, is kind of the main concern right now, in terms of the tornado warning, and then this whole area in terms of severe weather with wind, 60 to 70-mile-per-hour winds. Still a strong signal through this area, I would say, for maybe locally 70-mile-per-hour plus winds with this line. I haven't seen any reports of debris or any kind of a touchdown officially at this point.
No, I haven't either, and I was just going to go back through and see if we had any new damage reports here that have come in.
Yeah, and I think, guys, what we're probably going to do here, we're going to stay on this warning here for a little bit, see how it evolves, given the rotation signal. But after that, given I don't see anything else of immediate concern, we'll probably hop off here. Main concern at this point is kind of along the Ohio River with the tornado watch, but nothing imminent, if you will. So just this Batesville storm is kind of the main one that we're monitoring right now. If something crazy happens along the Ohio River, we may hop back on. But I think that for central Indiana, the threat at this point, and for the Indy metro area, I think that at this point, threat has ended.
Absolutely, and I will say here too, for southern India, for Evansville and western Kentucky here, there is a little bit of a gap that is, in terms of where the severe warnings are currently. And I think that, at the very least here, if we can start to see more organization, that may warrant some additional severe warnings there. But yeah, it's really starting to, looking at the latest here on this cell here, Brett, I can still at least seeing some type of a hook feature here with some rotation for sure.
Yeah, you can see it right here on radar right here. Maybe something here too. A couple of little notches with this line still. So new severe warning up here in Richmond. Again, 60 mile. That's pretty, at this point, all of these are pretty much for 60 to 70-mile-per-hour wind gusts. All the yellows that you see, yellow boxes. West of this line at this point, guys, I'm going to say you are good to go to bed. This area in here. So Indy metro area, I think that you are checkmark, you are good to go.
Yeah. I think it's Bedford and areas south right now, or maybe just a little south of Bedford, where we need to watch again for some of this activity coming up from southwestern Indiana. But even though it's moving more northeast now, Brett, based on looking at the jet here, I think it'll start to want to have a tendency to tug more east at some point here as well.
Yeah, this area is worth monitoring, as you alluded to. But as you mentioned too, the front itself is kind of pushing in from the northwest, so it may limit how far north these storms can get down the line.
The problem with these storms in southern Indiana is no how the hell it's gonna.
So this is still a radar indicated tornado warning, aka radar indicated rotation. And so, Batesville, Napoleon, I would say Greensburg at this point, that the main rotation is east of you. I would imagine this expires in 6 minutes. It's probably going to be allowed to expire. This is kind of the main concern area, I would say, at this point as this line moves east. And so it includes Batesville. There's a couple of notches in here. It's going to include Sunman and St. Peter's, kind of along this I-74 interstate, is the main concern area at this point. Pea-sized hail in North Vernon. I would imagine the sirens are going off in Versailles because there's a tornado warning in your county, but it's not actually for the city at this point. Richmond, the severe warning, severe storms are right on your doorstep. It'll be anytime. Yeah, I would say Greensburg at this point, in terms of tornadoes, you're probably okay. It's east of you. In terms of wind, you're still in it. 60, 70 mile per hour wind gust possible. I'm, latest scans here maybe beginning to break up a little bit in terms of the rotation signal, which is good news. Maybe glitching there a little bit though. We'll give it a second.
There's a little bit of stuff towards. I think that's Napoleon, if I remember my geography. Yeah, a little bit right down there. But again, yeah, it's just not looking as impressive as it was, which is good. It's still definitely something to monitor for sure.
Let's see. This expires in 19 minutes. Yeah, so it's still, you can see it. It's still right here. Napoleon, Batesville, these areas, you need to be in shelter. This could produce a tornado for sure. But it's not the strongest rotation signal we've ever seen, but it's certainly still enough to prompt the warning and to prompt taking shelter. It could spin up a tornado pretty quickly. I think the other main concern right now is just this area with the wind. Look at some strong wind signals through this area. A lot of this is for 60 miles an hour. I'm going to say 60 to 70 in this area in terms of these storms moving through with that rear inflow jet, John.
Yeah, I would agree for sure, Brett. I think I'm also just kind of keeping an eye on some of these cells developing more towards Salem and Paoli too here, just a little bit. But also, Brett, just as well, it might not be the worst idea to show the future radar here in a few minutes, as the latest run that comes in is doing, I think, even better with the timing and just kind of general exit of this activity.
Yeah, let's go over to Clarity. There we go. All right, so here's a look at the, let me turn off all these alerts real quick. All right, so it's 8 o'clock right now. Let's go out to 8:30, 9 o'clock. Here's about 9 o'clock. Kind of watching these storms evolve. Storms working towards Evansville, Jasper, Corden, Louisville at this point. 9:30 here, we still have storms, extending from Western Ohio, but certainly by 9:30, Central Indiana, you're going to be fine at that point. Probably some rain, probably some wind, but nothing crazy. 10 o'clock here, further down to the south, Hopkinsville, Kentucky. Let me see if I can zoom in. I'm going to go to the dark mode and see if that helps to see the cities a little bit better. There we go. Let's keep zooming in. There we go. That helps a little bit. So again, let me go forward. This is by about 9:30. Storms from Louisville, Owensboro, Madisonville, Mayfield, Murray, Hopkinsville, Kentucky. Going out towards about 10 o'clock here, guys. You can see along the Ohio River. At this point, I would say severe storms probably exiting Indiana. 10:30 p.m. Main threat kind of down across central and western Kentucky and western Tennessee. 11 o'clock here, 11:30. Midnight, probably still some severe storms in western Tennessee, central Kentucky. But I would say at this point, even the rain starting to exit Indiana, Ohio, the main threat definitely pushing further to the south into the east as we continue to go throughout the overnight hours. So if we go back here, 9 o'clock, 9:30, 10 o'clock, at this point, it's along the Ohio River. Areas northwest should be relatively in the clear by 10:30. This is an interesting report because we did see that rotation earlier. We'll see if we can get any additional reports with that.
Yeah, it could have been that, Brett, or it could have been that jet that you mentioned too. It'll oftentimes have that same effect if it really decides to get rolling, especially where it's hilly down there too. There's so many trees that it'll amplify the noise as you get those low elevation wind gusts rolling in.
Scrolling through some comments, guys, to see what reports that we might have through here that we may not have seen. Pea-sized hail in Scipio. All right. Just got a message for tornado watch in Morgan County. I would imagine that it's probably them canceling the tornado watch for Morgan County at this point. Yep. Tornado watch, that's just canceling the tornado watch, Samantha. All right. Go back to the warnings here. So starting to approach some of these warnings in the far southern rows of counties in Indiana with large hail and some damaging winds. Again, you still have this area back here that will push to the east in a little bit. There's a tornado warning that's about to work into Kentucky here in southeast Missouri. One in Jonesboro as well. That's a pretty populated area, so something to keep in mind there. And then again, for central Indiana, in terms of the tornado threat, this is the main thing that we continue to keep an eye on. Looking at the rotation tracks, certainly had a history of rotation, but John, I would say that last couple of updates may be beginning to weaken a little bit.
Yeah, I would say so at this point here, Brett. We're kind of looking at just not as much of a strong signature here for rotation as we did. Still need to keep an eye on it, especially towards the I-74 corridor for Batesville, maintain shelters here. But we also have Matt Griffin here who is lurking behind. He just got done with our client live streams here as well. So
it seems to me everything's kind of getting a little outflowy, getting kind of more linear and more messy and not discrete anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still pretty concerned. Western Kentucky, Western Tennessee, Eastern Arkansas, kind of the area where we have a few tornado warnings still. That may be an area I think that can maintain that severe threat, especially just crossing into Western Kentucky, Western Tennessee. Instability is still pretty good in those spots. But the things just seem to be getting pretty messy out there as far as the outflows and the coverage. That doesn't mean there can't be severe weather, but as far as from a tornadic potential, that'll greatly limit things. That'll make things more winds, maybe some hail embedded, but good news, I suppose. With all that being said, probably just the orientation of the rains in southern Indiana for some flooding concerns. Looks like we may have a little bit of some training trying to set up into far southern Indiana, northern Kentucky. So that'll be another kind of concern here that we'll need to watch into the forecast for some heavy rain because of those training storms. And that outflow continues to move south in southern Indiana. So maybe the heavy rain threat can creep a little bit further south in northern Kentucky as well. So
Yeah. Guys, based off what I'm seeing right now, there's 12 minutes left on this tornado warning. I'm not seeing anything crazy in terms of rotation right now along the Interstate 74 corridor. A little bit of some broad rotation. I think damaging winds at this point is the bigger threat. John, unless you see anything else, I think that we can probably, there's real quick, severe thunderstorm warning heading toward Louisville. But I think that we can probably wrap this up for the time being.
Yeah, I agree. And guys, we'll do our best here on social medias as well over the next couple hours to keep you guys posted on all of the kind of just generally where the line is at, where it's going, how it's exiting as well. But I definitely think that the worst of the tornado risks, especially for Indiana, are starting to die down, and that's why we're starting to see the tornado watches being removed here as well, slowly from west to east. So good news still, as Matt said, now we, for southern Indiana, Kentucky, start watching more for that flash flooding risk to develop, in addition to some additional severe weather as that secondary line starts to form down there. There's definitely still going to be damaging wind gusts, definitely still going to be some low end tornado potential, at least down there for sure. But again, as far as the rest of the state of Indiana, and those of you that had it earlier, Illinois, southern Michigan, it's quieting down, which is good news.
Yep. Guys, real quick before we go, I did want to pop up this QR code and the link in the comments there for the Storm Cancer 5K, which is in just a little over a month. We'd love for a lot of you to come participate, raising money for pediatric brain cancer research. We raised, I think, $45,000 last year. And by the way, if you were on the live stream earlier, Michael said he was going to wear a Superman costume if we get 500 people to register. And so I want to see that. I don't know about you all. Thor was great last year. So I want to get Michael in a Superman costume. And you don't have to run. You can walk. I personally will not be running. And so if you are not a runner like me, you can walk 1 mile and join it for a great cause. I would highly recommend it. So guys, we really, really appreciate you staying with us throughout this system with the damaging wind, the large hail, the tornadoes. It's been a busy day. We hope that all of you are safe. And we'll continue to throw out updates if there's additional tornado warnings or anything like that. I think that we're pretty much ending that at this point, aside from maybe the southern row of counties in Indiana that we'll need to keep an eye on over the next couple of hours. But aside from that, stay safe. Be sure that if you go out this evening or tomorrow to clean up, that you are calling that 811 dig number if you need to dig anything up. To stay safe there, not to hit any gas lines or anything like that. So really appreciate working with them to help with that safety initiative as well. So guys, thanks so much. John, thank you. This is John's first time on the live stream today. I think he did an awesome job. So, kudos to you, John. You did amazing with that. Michael loves to do these and was trying to get out for a much deserved vacation. I know he didn't unfortunately get to that, but because of these storms, but I'm sure he will get out tomorrow. So
thank you all. No, it's been good, and the computer held up for the second stream, so that's all that matters, right? So
that's all that matters, guys. Stay